on, Jose? How you doing?
What's up, man? I'm just happy to be here. You know, my debut on Starlight Shadows, so I'm excited. I honestly can't wait to get into what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. So for those of you who don't know, so Josh just has not had a minute to catch up on Andor yet, so we're just kind of waiting on him, and we'll circle back around and get his thoughts on that for sure. But for right now, we're just gonna have Jose on for a big spoiler conversation for the show. So I'm very excited to have you on for this. And yeah, man, this was a big one for sure. But you know, I gotta tell you, man, it was kind of a frustrating thing because my Disney Plus. So I don't know if you know, like, or if your monitor does this, or if any of your devices really have like HDR on it. So like high dynamic range. So basically, like, that's my TV. It's high dynamic range, so that's like one of the big things for me. So like going into Disney Plus over the past few weeks has been kind of a bit of a hassle because my HDR was out on Roku, and there's like threads on this in the Roku community, so that's like a big thing that's been going on. So having Disney Plus for the past few weeks, watching Andor the proper colors with the proper colors has been like interesting, but I will say, like, luckily the PS5 was still working for HDR and everything, so like I was still able to catch it. But like it was just a big thing. I mean, I went on there kind of bitching about it, but you know, people who, if you know, if you guys had the Roku devices out there, you know that Andor's been a struggle for us, you know, because just having that convenience of using the Roku to go to Disney Plus is, you know, it's always nice. And unfortunately, we just haven't had that unless you wanted to watch a very like washed out version of the show, and nobody wants to do that. Like, so hopefully everybody out there.
I mean,
had different
luckily
devices.
I don't have that problem with my PC. But I mean, I do have a Roku in my house, but I didn't watch Andor on that only because it's in the living room, and I don't know why I'd rather just have like headphones on while listening to like watching a show or something, and not in like you know. I don't even know what kind of speakers we have out there. I don't even know if they're that good or anything. But I would assume that, you know, if I was to watch, then if I was to watch it on that Roku device, I would have problems. But yeah, no, I didn't have any problems on my PC. I was able to watch it in HDR, and it was amazing. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, my monitor has it too, so I could have used that for the high dynamic range. But you know, I just I love using my TV. There's something about, you know, just sitting on the recliner for me. It's just my home spot. I mean, we all got our like home spots that we watch.
This chair right here reclines, so I can just lay back down on this chair and just enjoy. And I've got this, you know, ultra wide screen, so watching movies and stuff on this ultra wide screen is even cooler because it has aspect ratios that this 27-inch regular widescreen just can't do. So
in the words of Han Solo, that's the real trick, isn't it? Because like you need that ultra wide screen, you know, because like that's like, you know, that'll really enhance your viewing experience for a lot of things, and that's not something I have, unfortunately. But luckily, like I said, hopefully everybody who was struggling with that with the Roku devices, luckily they've now updated and high dynamic range is working great. But like hopefully everybody else who was trying to get into Andor, that was a big thing on the thread. Like everybody that was chiming into the HDR issue was talking about, like, I was trying to watch Andor, and it's like, unfortunately, that was an issue all throughout. So hopefully everybody got a different device or had a different device to use to watch the show, because I do feel like that definitely could have affected it in a big way, because Roku's a pretty popular device to use to watch some of these shows. So it's unfortunate, but yeah. Anyway, welcome back to Starlight Shadows, everybody. My name is Dom. That's Jose making his Starlight Shadows debut, Jose Espinel, and we are going to be talking Andor spoilers today, so very excited to get into all of this, yes. And we are going to be talking about pretty much all the episodes. Yeah, it's 12 episodes worth. That is a hefty thing, but we'll try to break it up in arcs, and then at least that way, hopefully it's runs a little bit smooth as it can, even though there's definitely a lot of layers and a lot of things to discuss here. But I'm very excited to get into it. And this show, to me, I mean, I have a non-spoiler review out there, but I'll ask Jose here. Jose, what were your overall thoughts on Andor season 2?
Oh man, I mean, I don't think words can really describe it. It was just like the best bit of TV that Star Wars has done, for sure. I absolutely enjoyed it from beginning to end. I loved the decisions that they made on, how to release the episodes and what to do with the episodes. I thought it was phenomenal. Tony Gilroy is just a genius, and if Lucasfilm doesn't hire him and put him in there ASAP, then there's something wrong. But yeah, overall, the Andor show season 2 has just been. It was a roller coaster for sure. There was a lot of just ups and downs throughout all the episodes, and I just found myself after watching the 3 episodes looking forward to the next 3 that were going to come out, because it just left me wanting more. And so yeah, I just really did enjoyed it so much, and now we'll have to just watch 1 and 2 straight back to back and just see how that all plays, and then obviously going into like episode 4, 5, and 6 just to see how that all, because that'll all definitely now it'll play all differently now for sure.
Yeah, and if you guys have seen my spoiler review, or not spoiler review, non-spoiler review on the show or on the season, it was more or less like, and I'm surprised to say this to you guys now, this is the best Star Wars ever made to me. I really think that they nailed it, and that's not something I ever thought I'd say. I kind of come to you guys a changed man today, and that's after having taken in all the episodes, having that experience going into Rogue One now, and like seeing that Andor season 2 is like the thing that is just like enhanced, as kind of Jose was saying, all of Star Wars really. I mean, you can go back and watch any of it now, and because of this like full meal that we now have, I feel like it's just enhanced the experience. I think that the performances were top notch, and the cinematography was everything just
the composition of the music, it just always just great. And we were talking about this earlier too, is that this trilogy of like Andor season 1 and 2 with Rogue One really does compete now with like the original trilogy. It really does. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like I know that might be crazy to say, but
it is crazy to say. Yeah,
I honestly can say that with utmost like 100%ness that this does rival the original trilogy. Honestly, it's just that good. And if you guys haven't seen Andor season 1, 2, and Rogue One, do just season 1, 2, and Rogue One, just binge it all straight and come back and just let us know, because I think it really does.
Yeah, no, I never thought I'd be sitting here, and they kind of did it very sneakily, the way that they were like, we're going to make a trilogy that rivals the original, and they actually kind of pulled it off in a weird way, like in a really roundabout way. To
my guy Tony Gilroy over there.
You can't credit Tony Gilroy enough for just getting the right people around him, and just getting to know Diego Luna on the Rogue One set. I mean, that was one of the things that I was listening to him on a different podcast, and he was talking about, and we've kind of discussed this on this show before, and on the channel in general, where Tony Gilroy really did Rogue One. There's NDAs involved in that, and we Gareth Edwards gets the credit still, but because there's NDAs talking about that, and where Tony Gilroy is on the podcast, and on a podcast, and saying like, look, I can't talk about Rogue One. All I can say is people were not happy that I was there, but Diego and I connected. And so it was really interesting to hear him finally kind of openly at least say that, like that he can't talk about Rogue One or what happened there, because apparently it was a big mess, and luckily it turned out the way it did now. And I think we can safely say that. And that's the interesting thing here that I'll just start with Rogue One, with saying, basically, because you kind of know me on this, is like, I've never considered Rogue One to be a great Star Wars movie. I've always considered it to be a very good Star Wars movie, but never like a great one. And it was always kind of one of those things like, I'm missing something from it. It was just like, so what I was missing is Andor. And like with Andor there now, it's now a great Star Wars movie. Like it caps this off, and I'm like, I can put it together now. And how smooth it all kind of plays together is very insane. Like, it takes a really good filmmaker, writer, to do all that. And Tony Gilroy is one of those.
I definitely agree with that. I mean, to an extent, comparing Rogue One as a standalone film, comparing it to other movies as standalones, it's better than a lot of them. I will say that. It wasn't, obviously, when I first saw it wasn't the greatest, but also wasn't like down at the bottom.
Sure.
But yeah. I think I definitely agree with you in the fact that Andor is what was needed before Rogue One to make Rogue One an even better movie. To make it just like this phenomenal movie that just had all these questions unanswered that we had from Rogue One that were then answered in Andor seasons 1 and 2. For sure.
Yeah, it just definitely plays like it was a weird experience rewatching that, because it was one of those things where it's like, I've seen this movie many times. I know I've seen this movie many times. I know exactly. I can tell you what's happening next, but yet it's different. It doesn't mean the same thing anymore. None of the scenes really mean the same thing anymore, because it all plays very differently now. And that's the genius. They really all just
they mean, honestly, they just mean so, like the the whole Rogue One movie just means so much more, like what the characters are going through and what they're doing and all that. Just now with Andor season 1 and 2, what they're doing in Rogue One just means so much more, and we get why as well. Yeah, because of Andor.
Yeah, and I know people are, ready for us to get into the spoilers, because somebody out there is like, why though? Why is it a different movie? Well, I'll tell you, Bobby Joe. Let's get into it. So let's talk about the first thing that, like the first arc really is, which is, I always call this arc the people of the woods. And that's because, that really is like the big thing going on with Cassian. Our main character is like, he goes into the woods and he finds these people. Which was probably the least interesting thing that's going on in these first 3 episodes. No offense to the episodes themselves, because I think there's a lot of other great things. But before we even get into the people of the woods, I mean, we do need to talk about how we start out, because I think that Cassian being a part of the rebellion already was a great way to start. And I got to give credit where credit's due. I mean, it's one of the best TIE fighter sequences of all time, was Cassian trying to hijack this TIE fighter from an Imperial base, and I think that the reason we always kind of talk about Star Wars action in this way of like, it's not the action, it's what the action means, and this did have a lot of meaning because of what we opened with, which is him talking to this Imperial base guard, I would imagine, who's been helping him this whole time undercover, and it's like extremely emotional right from the jump, because and it's just it's like this fleshed out dialogue written in a way that we haven't really seen in Star Wars, where it's like this Andor's this rebellion spy in the Empire, trying to not sort of in a way dupe, I guess, this Imperial girl, into like, this is the right thing to do, even though from our perspective as the audience, we know it's the right thing to do. There's this thing in the back of our mind. It's like, whoa, if Cassian did not like get into this girl's head, would she actually think that this is the right thing to do to help him? So it's kind of one of these like catch-22 things, which is, I will say, one of the best things about Rogue One, where it always kind of showed the gray area of the rebellion, you know what I mean, where it's like, and so you just almost feel like, yes, I mean, it's great that she's kind of helping the rebellion out, but wasn't an organic thing. I mean, this girl is like, I might die because of this. I might get killed or assassinated because of this. And Cassian's like sitting there, again, just being like, oh, it's okay. It's okay. You get killed for this TIE fighter, girl. Like it's just like,
it's all for greater cause.
Exactly. But it's like, so there's that sort of like fact that kind of sits in your brain still now of like, this girl might have gotten killed because of Cassian's actions. But it was ultimately, obviously, the best thing for the rebellion at the end of the day. But he had to do what he had to do, even though he had no idea how to fly this thing. And it's one of the coolest sequences where he's crashing this TIE fighter into everything and shooting this, and just uses. But he knows how to use the guns, and that's like the interesting part about it, where it creates this like, what I could honestly call like this incredibly like cinematic opening, and it's really incredible, and the escape from the base and all that, and him crashing down into the woods, which we do find out is it's Yavin 4. That had to be like the discovery of Yavin, because that was the big thing there, is luckily I'll just skip ahead on that part of it, where we kind of do notice these pillars that are we know very well from Yavin, by the end of this, and then that's when we should kind of go, that's what all that was for. But we don't know this throughout 3 episodes worth of him and these people, the woods. And I've talked about, I mean, the one actor in there I just didn't think was very well, fit for the show, but it's fine. I mean, it was such an insignificant thing, and I still like this like little expansion on like, oh, okay, this is what Yavin was like before Yavin. You know, it's good expansion. I can at least give it that. Most interesting stuff going on here, though, is everything happening at Mon Mothma and the wedding, and you know, because I gotta say, like, there's like this wonder that happens where Mon Mothma is like just walking around the wedding when we meet her, and what's great about that is like it's kind of our way back into all the characters from season 1, with the exception of Cassian. We know where Cassian's at. He's not joining this wedding. He wasn't invited. You know, that's fine. He's hanging out with wood people. But we got Mon Mothma, and she's, you know, going through this. It's like this great one shot, though. There's no cuts in this, and it's just going through. You know, we see Vel, we see Luthen. She's greeting them all. We see, oh god, they're the gangster from the first season. You know, the one that she's hooking her daughter up with his son. You know, so we see all that happening, and it's a really good scene. I mean, it really is, just to get us right back in. But what I liked about the entire wedding throughout the entire arc is basically it's this wedding, it's a celebration, and there's a lot of great happening here. There's a lot of feel-good moments, but there's this underlying threat still going on. And it makes Cassian's journey more significant because you see Clea, right? She's talking to Luthen. I can't get a hold of Cassian, you know? And there's that going on, which is fantastic. So, I mean, it's just that underlying threat that's still lingering that is kind of making you go, yeah, this is like really intriguing. It's also this weird, or not weird, but very cool expansion on Chandrilla, you know, and that culture. And I think that it's really, again, it's one of those things that's just so cinematically beautiful that you just don't mind watching it and all that. And the thing about Mon Mothma here is like we're trying to watch how it's all part of the journey for her. Like we're trying to see her go from prequel, you know, Mon Mothma before the Mon Mothma we know, and like these are the pieces, like the pieces that needed to come into play really start here at this wedding with her friend, because talk about taking a very likable fella from the first season and then watching him turn on Mon Mothma pretty quick. And Luthen, while it's a terrible thing to do, knowing what needs to be done. And with Tay is the guy's name, and he knows what needs to be done with Tay. And I thought that was just crazy. But anyway, I want to, you know, go let you speak a little bit on this wedding stuff. I mean, what were some of your favorite standout moments?
Yeah, I was gonna say one that definitely stood out to me was the scene where Mon Mothma is getting absolutely hammered after she's found out some news, and it just starts dancing. And I just love the wide angle shots that we get of her just feel like she's in this like circle of people just dancing, and it almost like resembles how she's feeling now, very just small and insignificant because of what she's just found out, that she's been told. That's what I really liked, that they were able to portray so well, from just, you know, where you know, the placement of the camera. I absolutely enjoyed that. I also found it no, you go ahead. What are you gonna say?
Well, I wanted to expand on that because, like, it's an interesting way you brought it up, but now that I'm thinking about it, she's kind of blending into another just
that too
pawn, and that's
I guess the double meaning is like she's trying to like forget about just everything and just kind of just blend in with everyone else and not be seen as this higher up person that's got all this stress in her life because of the position that she's in and stuff. I
feel like that expands on your point. I hadn't thought of it that way, where she's just like another one of the regulars at this wedding at the moment, you know. Because
that's why you need me in these things.
No, for sure. But
I'm a film student that studied it. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No, for sure. But she's honestly like, she's just blending in with another one of the regular invitees, right? Like, but also it is like kind of what you were starting to say there. Like this is like, to me, like when I look at that, it's like, this is my last moment to have a good time too. Yeah. Because after this, I got to get it together, and we got to get this
I got
thing
no
going.
good times. I can have no good times anymore. And one thing I wanted to expand on what you said about the looming threat. I feel like they know from like that point on that the looming threat is just always going to be there up until they, you know, in Rogue One when they finally send the plans up to the rebellion.
Yeah.
And that's when they finally like, yeah, now we've won for sure.
Yeah.
And they can just rest easy. And honestly, the stuff with Clea and Luthen, I mean, I just absolutely love every single time that they're on screen together, man. Their chemistry is just phenomenal. And honestly, hats off to Elizabeth Dulau, who plays Clea. She is a phenomenal actress. Oh my goodness, especially when we start when we start getting into the later episodes, especially.
Yeah.
Oh my. But we'll get there because oof.
Yeah, no, we will.
Another one too. Vel is also, she's also phenomenal in this as well. She's had
good,
a lot of amazing standout roles in these episodes, especially in oh my goodness, when she sees oh my god, what's her name? Why am I blanking?
Oh, Cinta.
Cinta, yes. That scene right there really like got stuck in my head. I was like,
it worked.
Hey, yo, it did work. It worked. So, and that's what I mean. It's just like the emotions that Faye is able to portray with her face playing Vel is just like, oh, it's just so amazing. Like, she doesn't even need to speak words. Her face just speaks it all. It's just amazing. I absolutely loved that scene. It was so cool.
Yeah, I like that there's this sort of, I mean, like Vel, for example, there's this thing, and this is kind of the unfortunate part about jumping a year every time, but at the same time, I'm not having an issue with it because of how it all played, because it all worked. But what I will say is, like, with Vel, just as a personal selfish like wish, I guess, like, Vel is so great in this season, has a little less screen time than season 1 for sure, but what I love about, again, like somebody like Tony Gilroy helming this, is he makes sure that because Vel has less screen time, it doesn't make the character less significant. I mean, because of Vel seeing Cinta, that really is the biggest reason that we want to see the next arc, because what is going to happen with Vel and Cinta, and that is a big part of it. Yeah.
And to expand on that too is like, yes, she might have less screen time, but the scenes that she is in are so impactful that it doesn't really warrant her needing to be in, like, you really just forget that she's in this as a lot less than in season 1, because her season, the scenes that she is in season 2 are just like so impactful and stuff. So yeah, it's definitely, hats off to her for being honestly, everyone in this cast just did a phenomenal job, and I just can't wait to keep praising all of them for what they've done in this show, to be honest.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, yeah, I was just so thrilled with this entire thing. I mean, the biggest thing for me that I wanted to kind of circle back to a little bit in this wedding, and this is, again, goes into Tony Gilroy making sure that no stone is left unturned. Like, we need to see what is going on with every character. Like, we need to get inside their heads a little bit. And even Perrin, Mon Mothma's husband, we get a little insight into what's going on in his head when he makes his big speech, which was so well written. And
it was.
And you just know it's the genuine thing, because this is a guy who is chasing what him and his wife had at the very beginning, and he's trying to tell his daughter, which was probably for the best, to keep that feeling, because at the end of the day, while he won't hold my hand or whatever, that's the stuff you want to hold on to, because what Mon Mothma is going through, to her, I could really tell she feels like that's no kind of life for my daughter, and I want my daughter to just have the innocent, fun life. Let her, relish in our family's rich history. You know what I mean? Like let her have that, and let her stay in that. Which is why, like, when you watch Perrin's speech, Mon Mothma's like cracking a smile a little bit for the first time about her husband, because she agrees with what he's saying. And Luthen too, who is, and I think back to season 1 where he's like, I've made my mind a sunless place, you know what I mean? And like, when he says that speech to Lonnie in season 1, and now you're seeing that Luthen, just because he's that way doesn't mean he wishes that for every single person in the galaxy. You know what I mean? It's only the people that are valuable and an asset to him, because even he cracks a little bit of smile during Perrin's speech. A little bit of acting, a little bit of genuine feelings, maybe a little bit of both. I don't know, but either way, like, I think that scene plays so powerfully because of that. Because we understand that here's Mom Mothma's daughter. She's going to be okay. You know what I mean? Like throughout,
right.
You know, she's going to make her way. And I think that's what really works about it, you know, is the fact that it's like not everybody in the galaxy needs to have detrimental things happen to them, you know, during this time, and not everybody connected with the rebellion needs to have that. Like there are just some people like Mom Mothma's daughter, Lita. I'm sorry, her name's Lita. Lita can have a fine life in this galaxy, and some people can, and then she's just one of them, I think. And I think that was
and two things on Lita as well. One, I wanted to go back to that scene where she's, you know, crying and complaining about how her husband to be won't like hold her hand and stuff. The emotion that she portrayed in that too was just phenomenal. And two, it's just funny to think that like that's like quote unquote a detriment in her life, but like that compared to what's actually happening out in the world is like levels below.
Exactly. Like, that's you're right. Yes.
It's hilarious to think, but I mean at the same time, you know, when you're a kid like that, that's really what your detriments are.
Yeah.
Because you're not really out in the real world yet.
Yeah.
So
and,
you know, it's like
well, it circles all the way back around to parents' speech, which is hang on to that. Like, let that be the biggest concern in your life rather than...
don't let anything else be a bigger concern. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and you kind of get the sense...
The dad's like, if that's going to be your biggest concern, then I'm fine with that, to be honest.
Yeah, like, it's a really interesting dual dynamic for Perrin as a character, because you realize, like, he's a bad husband, but he's a good dad. You know, there's a duality, I guess, there. That is really interesting about that character in particular. You know, bad husband, great dad. You know, so you know, I love that. I love that these characters are that layered, and it's one of the things that keeps me going throughout the show. And without that one little moment, like it changed that entire character for me. You know, with that one moment, and that's so important to have. Yeah, no, and also I just wanted to second like Elizabeth Dulau throughout this whole season. I mean, just wow, and just what a transition from a smaller character in the first season to like a powerhouse.
Such a powerhouse of a character in this season. Like her scenes as well. Oh my goodness, man! And like her chemistry with Diego Luna is just, oh my goodness, man! It's one of those that it just felt so natural, you know, because they've just been working together for so long. It just all came out so naturally. It was great. Yeah. It was amazing to see.
Yeah, we'll get to that here in a little bit, but
yeah, for sure.
You know, with going into Cassian's whole ordeal, I mean, we really just are kind of up against again the people of the woods, and again, like I said, I liked having expansion on Yavin, and no, for sure. But I like how we're seeing a community fall apart on itself in the galaxy, though. To be fair,
a little civil war.
Yeah,
you know, so to say,
yeah, and you kind of get the sense like if they had just stuck together, maybe things would have gone better for them, you know, and
True.
Because they're at the end of the day, like we kind of showed, like, or Cassian said it, we're kind of all on the same side, we're fighting the same fight here, and I enjoyed how that kind of could have worked out. But I think like even bigger than all this, I mean, especially in episode 3, I mean, but the Mon stuff is definitely my favorite stuff, but because of all the layers to it. But I think like what is like our most Star Warsy action feel is the Bix and Brasso's arc, you know, because and Will and everything going on with them, and B, you know, and we're getting those characters, and you kind of you kind of forget that they're a big part of this. But I always go back to that first season though, in the finale, you know, Bix's last line to Cassian, which is you know, Cassian will always find us, you know. And damn, was she right about that, because like this whole thing going on with them where they're kind of trying to just be these like simple farmers, you know, but they're still meeting up with the Empire. Like you can't even, it does show in the galaxy that like these people who are just being normal, like doing normal jobs like farming, you know, can't even just do it in peace without the Empire hurting them, you know. And that's a contrast to Mon Mothma's daughter, where it's you know, she's rich, so she'll get to live her life with her husband, and you know what I mean, she's got the wealth.
Again, it's It's the class system that we use, middle class, poor class, high class, like upper class. That's why I love about Star Wars so much is that you can relate real life to like you relate Star Wars to real life so vividly. It's crazy. But I love that at the same time because then you can watch this stuff and be like, oh crap, so I relate more to this person, or I relate more to this person, or I relate more to this. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, and they're just trying to do their thing. It's Brazos and Bix. They're all just doing their jobs. You know what I mean? I get it that they, they're fugitives in a way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like they wouldn't have been fugitives without Cyril, which we kind of get to see a little bit of what he's doing now. He's still kind of in the Imperial stuff, So I'll dive into that a little bit because this is really where we get to open up and see a lot more of him and Deidre's relationship, which I loved, by the way, that we just started here and they're just already together, and I just love seeing these people on the other side having this simple concern of like mom's coming over for dinner, and we got to meet your mother. How great was Kyle Soller this season as Cyril? I mean, Deidre,
oh my goodness,
don't get me wrong, like Denise Golf is amazing too, and she already was in season 1. Like there was nothing else she had to prove to me for this season, right? But Kyle Soller, on the other hand, is just playing so much more into this character.
Well, so I think it's also because he was given a lot more responsibility and a lot more to tackle in this season compared to in the first season, because he's definitely way more heavily involved with ISB in this season than he was in the first one, for sure.
A little bit unknowingly too. I mean, just to be honest, I mean he's kind of unknowingly being duped, which is the sad thing about a lot of people in today's world. Not to get too far into that, but it's true. Like you get duped and you start to play for the side that really isn't yours, even though you think it is. And I think that unfortunately, with this guy, he feels like he's doing the right thing, and we still there's a sympathy that kind of builds throughout the season, and I think it was so important to have this like simple scene with him and his mom because it immediately your sympathies kind of start back up from the first season where you're like, oh my gosh, this woman, such a pain in his ass, such a thorn in his side to just, because everybody, I think that's one thing we can all agree in the galaxy is everybody has the right to work and move up in the world and succeed and Cyril just as much. And he's trying to do it on his own. And I think that that's something that, it's kind of your, even in this world, like your God-given right to just do that on your own. You know what I mean? That's one thing that's a right that nobody should try to take from you. And you can kind of sympathize with Cyril on that level. And he's living with Deidre, so he found himself a nice woman, I'll say nice in quotations, just depending on how you look at it. But, he found himself a woman that he likes, loves, and thinks that she's doing the right thing and fighting for the right side, even though she's not. And I know that we're kind of jumping all over the place, but this is a good place to transition into. This is where we start to set up Gorban with Krennic and all that, right? Because
actually, before we get into that,
go ahead.
There's some things I wanted to point out about the was this in season 3? Season 3 was when Andor showed
episode 3,
right? Episode 3, I meant, is when Cassian showed up, right?
Yes, at the farm. Oh, we're going to circle back around to that, because that's kind of our end point at this arc. If you...
Oh, fair. Okay, never mind. Yeah, okay, cool. All right.
No, okay. I was just like, I have comments on that too. Don't worry.
Yes,
we're circling back around. I know we're jumping a lot of places here, but yeah. Hold that 1 second, because I'll let you talk about that 1 second.
Yeah, I can't Krennic. Oof, man, Ben
Mendelsohn is given the greatest performance. Dude. I love seeing him and Denise Golf on screen together in this role, and her talking about basically you need to cause an uprising, right? Like that's how you're going to get people to conform, and like we kind of do see how it plays out later, but. It was just great stuff, great groundwork. But but speaking of Deidre though, but this is the groundwork for Deidre getting promoted, which is showing like as long as Cyril stays with Deidre, he's going to be okay, which is great. And then we also have, I think, the simple scene, but I think it's a simple scene that's the payoff to everything, where Ma comes over, and then Deidre starts to show her power and put Ma in her place. Now, in my mind, I'm thinking this is the payoff to all the scenes of him sitting around eating cereal with his mother in season 1. But wait, there's more later to this, But to me, this is where Deidre puts Ma in her place. On one end, it was probably good that it happened, but then on the other hand, we see Cyril's fate later, which we can get into a little bit later. But exactly. I just wanted to talk about, it was a great scene between Denise Gulf and the mother, Deidre and the mother, because they really played together very well in that moment. And then you see the mom start to straighten up a little bit. But
Edie, I think Edie Karn.
Thank you. Edie straightens up a bit, but she also at the same time is like, oh my God, little did she know she was playing with the detriment to her son. But we'll talk about that a little bit later.
I can't lie, the face that Cyril puts on when he walks in and sees like her mom just like completely switch 180 completely is hilarious. I found myself laughing.
I loved him like half dead in the bedroom. I was like, this freaking guy, this poor guy. I can't believe it. It was hilarious.
This is Cyril the whole time. It's just on strings.
Oh yeah, a puppet. Yeah. To one or the other. Now that when you look back at it, though, it's like he's a puppet to one or the other. He was never his own man.
They each have one hand. One hand controls one half, the other hand controls the other half, and it's just
that's the tragedy. He was never his own guy. It could never be, And then, like I was saying,
honestly, justice for Cyril. To be honest, let's get the hashtag.
I agree. And
popular and
hashtag
like, justice for Cyril.
Yeah, 100%, man. And then like it's sad because like it is just like your God-given right to move up in the world and do it on your own. Like that's something you can't take away from anybody. Is to at least try. And but he is the reason, unfortunately, because this is the interesting dynamic of the shows where we circle back around, because he is unfortunately the reason that we had these fugitives, Bix, Brasso, Cassian. Like, if Cyril didn't start all this, we probably wouldn't be in this case. And so we're back here, and the Empire's messing with them, and then let's talk about the insane scene with Bix and this Imperial gentleman who comes in there and tries to pull.
That's literally what I wanted to talk about.
Oh yeah, please go off then. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Like that scene is the performance from both of them is just incredible. Especially from Elizabeth. Man, she just honestly probably definitely one of my favorite Bix performances of all time. Just the gruesomeness of it, and just the scaredness. It was like, is she gonna get out of this alive, unscathed, without any emotional or physical scars? Or is she going to have any emotional, physical scars left on her from this Imperial officer? And just the way that it played out from beginning to end, and I just loved the continuous end cut shots that they did for this entire scene was just put together so well. I absolutely enjoyed all of it. It was incredible.
Me too.
It was great. I loved it.
And and I will say, like, far be it for me to speak on any specific people covering the show or any specific reviewers or anything like that, but I do need to at least say I do know that this caused a little bit of a kerfuffle. And if you know, you know. And let me just tell you, man, when you're part of any kind of sort of dictatorship in the way that the Empire is, there's going to be people like this, and they do this kind of thing, and this is a very real thing that happens in the world, and it's unfortunate, and I think that the fact that it was shown was brave of the show, but it also was bold of the show, and I agree. I agree that when you hear the moment of Bix saying, like, he tried to rape me, I agree, you're like, whoa, but I don't think it invalidates anything that was set up in Star Wars prior. I think it only expands upon the threat that is the Empire that George set up in the original film. So I'm not saying anything specific about any specific people, but I do know that there was a little bit of a kerfuffle over time about this thing, and it is what it is.
Tell you this too, Bix is just tackling way too much at this point too in her life, because we can also talk about the nightmares that she's having of that Imperial officer that put that helmet on her and absolutely messed her up mentally. That has now just made her wake up with the worst nightmares possible. It's a lot.
Perhaps attempted sexual assault himself off screen. True. Based on the way the nightmares played out. We don't know, and I like that it's called on set. And we just need to know
I mean, and the way that she wakes up from the nightmares too, almost also suggests that
it could imply it. Sure,
unconsensual stuff could have happened for sure.
Yeah, and I just think that it's important to show that this is the Empire, you know what I mean, and this is how it operates.
They're cruel, and malicious people. And they're going to do whatever they want to whoever they want because they think they're all powerful and no one can stop them.
Yeah, absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And they do it unknowingly in situations where they are, not being viewed or watched, and let's remember, like Bix said it to another Imperial officer that he tried to whatever me, I don't want to get taken down from YouTube and say the
R-word me.
R-word me, right? He tried to R-word me. So she said that to a different Imperial officer, meaning that Imperial officer was unbeknownst to him. But at the end of the day, did they give a shit? In this case, they did not, and that's unfortunate, and that's reality sometimes. And it was important to point out. Anyway, so moving on from that part of it. We do have Cassian coming in to try to rescue them, which I loved because that scene where he's in contact with Clea and Clea's saying it's not safe to go there in code, and Cassian, I don't give a shit, without actually saying I don't give a shit, just like moves his ship downward. He sees that Imperial shuttle.
That angle, the camera angle that they used to of him firing those rockets at that Imperial transporter was incredible shot.
Such a great shot.
Great shot. And another scene that I loved so much was Will running while getting shot by the stormtroopers. That was a really really well shot scene as well. I enjoyed that one.
Yeah. By the way, that's another one that's kind of becoming his own character here as Will. We're starting to see a little bit more development for him, and that was really.
And there's way more development too that happens later on as well. That we'll get into.
For sure. But anyway, I think that this was all.
And then we have the unfortunate fate of Brazo as well. Yeah, the tragedy of Brazo.
One of my. How could he not be one of your favorites from season one? That's one of those. Just as an actor, he's just so likable.
And also, by the way, it turns out that they actually got that Bixen, Brazo, and Will all got set up by that one guy that was trying to help them, escape. Which was a complete shock to me too. My jaw was kind of like okay.
No, for sure.
I mean, I guess maybe you could say that you could have seen it coming, but I didn't. I was like,
it's not so much that you.
I mean, it wasn't like a complete jaw drop, but it still kind of dropped my jaw for sure.
No, it's not so much that I saw it coming. Wait. It's a little bit more the point of, well, look at what Lando did, and you kind of go, how bad are these people? You know what I mean? I just think it's a further expansion on that, a little bit when you look at what Lando did for Han and Leia.
I think it's also just I think what powers these people to sell other people is survivability, because it's like, if you don't give me information, then you're gonna die instead, or you'll get imprisoned. So I think it's really that drives certain people to sell out other people that are wanted by the Empire.
Well, I just feel like there's this thing of like, you could look at the dude's face and see a little bit of a sense of regret, the same way kind of Lando had, except this is like, what if Lando did that and it actually resulted in one of his friends' deaths? And in this case, like, which it almost did with Han for Lando, but it didn't. And in this case, we actually see Brazos go down, and it's sad.
And honestly, it almost, in that particular scene when Brazo finds out that he got sold out, we almost saw him unfortunately go as well. They were about to shoot him as well, but then luckily there was a distraction that drew the stormtroopers away.
Correct.
So it really did kind of mirror play with Lando, Han, and this guy in Brazo. So yes, we do unfortunately see Brazo's fate, which is very sad to see. I cried. I can't lie, I did. And honestly, I think what got me the most was Cassian going over to Brazo and seeing that he did not make it. And then basically just telling Will and Biggs that no, we got to go now. He didn't make it. He's gone, essentially. And then like the whole slow-mo that they did of them going to the ship to get away was, oh my goodness, man, it was incredible.
Yeah, and it's that thing that I love, and I mean other Star Wars projects have done this very well too, of like, we're at war, There's no time to stop and mourn. We have to.
There's no
going.
time to stop. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You can mourn. You can mourn either when we've won and defeated them, or when you're about to die. You can mourn them when like you're in your like last minutes or whatever.
Yeah. Like it's a nice parallel to like even like Han's death in Force Awakens, and it's like, and then the First Order comes to invade the Resistance at the beginning of Last Jedi, and then they just have to keep going. There's no time to stop and have a funeral for Han Solo. We have to keep going. There's a war, and I just. I love those moments because it's like it is showing like it makes it all the more Star Wars, in that way where it's like, no, we're at war.
It's like I was gonna say it's like the same with Obi-Wan with Qui-Gon. He couldn't mourn Qui-Gon until he got the job done, which was to defeat Darth Maul.
Exactly. At least Qui-Gon got a little funeral there and a memorial, but yeah, for sure.
When you burned,
I exactly what you're saying, yeah. So anyway, but yeah, they're at war. They got to keep going. So. There's that thing to it where it's like it's that tragedy of that, but it's also the fact that that's also sort of your hook a little bit, where the stakes are high, we're in, you know what I mean, and and I like that that's happening. It's happening parallel to Mon's, having her great time, you know what I mean. So we're seeing on one end, it's like this is the end. And I'm gonna celebrate I'm gonna not celebrate, but I'm gonna memorialize the end and the beginning of the war. I'm
gonna drown in sorrows and just memorialize this end.
Yeah, and then Cassian and
it's almost like say they're both. Yeah, they just can't really memorialize the end yet.
Yeah,
I mean they can eventually, but they just can't right now.
Yeah, and so we do go into the next arc, the next 3 episodes, which is like
1 year later.
Yeah, yes. 1 year later, and into 3 BBY. We go from 4 BBY to 3 BBY.
To 3 BBY.
And in 3 BBY, I mean, we're still seeing this Bix being tormented, by
still having those nightmares.
Yeah, the doctor and just
Imperial doctor.
And I love this because a lot of these episodes played very classic Andor on one end, because it was that, sort of like we're kind of going back and we're seeing how the Imperial, or what the Imperial's up to in a lot of ways. The Imperials are up to in a lot of ways. And, but we're also like, we have this, we're keeping these intimate relationships. And then the big surprise, I think, is that, surprise, not so surprising. The surprising, not so surprising is that Bix and Cassian are now in a bit of a, they're in a relationship, right? So they've engaged in this relationship. And but I think like it made sense to me based on all the groundwork that's been laid with those two characters, and it didn't feel unnatural, but I think it was an important way to show like, hey, things have happened between this 1 year time jump and all that.
A lot has happened.
Yeah. What I love about this arc mostly is all the development that we get on Saw Gerrera as a character. We're starting to get
Forrest Whitaker,
who I think just gave his best performance as Saw in this one. This little arc, because
I think it's also because he actually had way more screen time in this season than he did in the entire of Rogue One.
Yeah, no, 100%. And
he was by Rogue One. He was also like at with ends and close to death. Just like physically and internally.
I'd argue more screen time than he had in Rebels, more screen time than he had in Clone Wars, more screen time than he had in Bad Batch. Just more.
And anything combined, and honestly, probably all the other projects combined, probably. Yeah.
So it was great to finally spend a lot of time with this character
with a more healthier Saw Gerrera as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and we kind of see like
compared to what we saw in Rogue One. That's what I mean.
Yeah, no. But we kind of see like I was kind of winking at that because we definitely get to see a lot of that. But Cassian is in this arc. I mean, the big thing too is like this is where Cassian becomes the most interesting character in his own show. Luckily, finally, because he's going out to Gorman, man. He's going to check this stuff out and see what's going on here.
Oh my god! And I love the facades that they put on too when they go and visit different like systems and country planets and stuff. I love it.
Yeah. This is where Tony Gilroy's born supremacy screenwriting comes into play a little bit because like you're starting to get the spy stuff a little bit, more, and it really works.
Mango's in disguise as a fashion designer. I love it.
Yeah, and I love that I love how well Diego Luna did with the dualities here, because
Oh, quick question. Do you watch the declassified videos that they put on YouTube for the
I saw
episodes?
a couple of them. I haven't watched them all, but
they're really cool because I remember seeing, now that we're talking about Cassian Andor, when he goes to Gorman dressed up as a fashion designer.
Yeah,
they talked about the inspiration for the outfit that he was wearing, the black and purple, came from a really famous fashion designer who unfortunately has passed.
Wow.
And I thought that was really cool because, he is disguised as a fashion designer. So why not model him after a fashion designer that actually looks pretty close to Cassian Andor himself? So I thought that was really cool.
It makes actually a lot of sense to me because, I know, Tony Gilroy himself kind of considers himself a bit of a historian in that way. I know that.
Yeah, true.
A lot of his, Empire inspiration comes from Nazi Germany, which is,
I mean, fair enough. Yeah, look, I mean, it is.
It's basically what George was trying to do too, so it works out, so it's good that they're coming from the same place on that. However, I did love the attire and the costume design in these episodes were fantastic for Cassian, and they just did a great job here, and his duality of having to be that fashion designer on the surface, but he's having to try to figure out a way to be that while obtaining his his goal of this mission was just such fascinating stuff. But we're also learning a lot
that Luthen just keeps sending this guy to with this, and Cassian just keeps saying yes.
Yeah.
Gee, man, he's essentially just Luthen's errand boy at this point.
Exactly. But the fascinating part is Cassian on one side of this is this mirror playing for the rebellion, but he's playing for the rebellion. He's doing the duality of the rebellion, but there's a mirror, which is Cyril. Cyril is Cassian's mirror because Cyril is also playing a duality, but he's doing it for the Empire,
Right.
Again, thinking that the Empire's right, But what I love is that we're just seeing two people doing exactly the same thing, just they both think that they're in the right, without actually knowing 100% if they are. And, luckily, it was almost luck. I mean, that's one of the things with Cassian. Luck was always on his side, right? And he says as much in this show, where it's, it's always just luck for him. And his luck got him to play for the rebellion, the correct side, rather than Cyril was on the wrong side.
Man should go to a casino and just bet a bunch of credits on some games, bro, if luck's on his side, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And Cyril, not so lucky. He's the unlucky.
He definitely don't go to a casino, Cyril.
Yeah, exactly. And he puts all his bets all his chips in the wrong table, because he really
man went for black instead of red on the roulette, man.
Yeah. Well, I actually believe that part of him cares for some of the gore, when he's
he does for sure, especially once he starts actually getting to know them and figuring out what exactly gore means to them, and how they live their lives as a family, essentially, all of them. And another thing I wanted to talk about is the made up language that they made for the gore. I loved it. It was really cool. It was a mix of French with just some made up stuff that they literally completely made up, which I found really, really cool. And I remember watching
for learning it too.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And that's what I was going to say is I remember watching a Declassified about that too, is they said that it got so stuck in their head that they actually found themselves, even when they weren't rolling cameras, talking in that made up language, which is just, I mean, dude, it's amazing. It's it's so cool to see how impactful something like that, something as simple as just making up a language for these people has, that you're even off camera, you're still talking to your cast members that know the language in that language. I find just really, really cool.
It added such a great level of authenticity to the whole thing. I mean, this entire arc of Cyril trying to educate himself on the gore and what's going on there, and also I do love these references. We do learn about the Tarkin massacre that happened a while back, right? Where Tarkin was trying to, and this has been something that's kind of been around in the source material for a little while with Gorman, is this Tarkin massacre where Tarkin was trying to land a ship and they wouldn't get the hell out of the way, so we have history there with a massacre, and it's very unfortunate. And and the fact that just they're using Tarkin for this conduit to that is pretty cool.
Which is cool.
Yeah. As Star Wars fans, it's a really cool little tidbit, and especially people that haven't read the source material on that, it's really interesting to hear about.
I still need to get to that.
Yeah.
I need to get to that book.
Yeah, and that was actually something that started before canon. I think was planted in legends about Gorman and Tarkin and the massacre that happened. So
I might have it then.
You might, yeah. That's something that might have been carried over. I can't remember the first exact spot it was placed in, but I know that was probably something that was, that was carried over from legends. I'm almost positive. So that was really interesting that they used that, and it's like, we can go on and on about Tony Gilroy ain't a Star Wars fan, whatever, but he's talking to the right people, to get the right information to use for his show, because, he's like, well, if we're going to run into the Gorman massacre.
Lucasfilm, if you're watching, put Tony Gilroy, please. Oh my gosh, you need this guy.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about the legacy of that here in a little bit, but, I would say, if we're talking we're going to run into the Gorman massacre, we have to mention all these things and, the history of Gorman and all that.
Can we talk about these spiders that they love collecting, by the way?
I know, it's something else. It's something else. I'm really happy with the utilization of spiders in Star Wars. We're getting more and more of it lately, and I think that's important because it's always kind of been there, and we just haven't seen a lot of it on screen up until pretty recently, so I'm happy that they continue to utilize it. On the other hand, I freaking hate spiders. So,
oh no, I hate spiders too. Don't get me wrong. Because when I first saw the taxidermy spiders, I was like, oh, why?
Yeah,
like spiders,
yeah. Oh well, Cyril would be the guy too to get some. So
collect spiders. Yeah, 100%. He would.
It made so much sense. He'd be the guy.
He would. He's the target. He looks like that kind of guy.
Target consumer right there. Yeah. Yeah, but it is interesting.
Looks like the kind of guy that would do that.
Yeah,
no, it is
definitely fascinating.
And we obviously find out later on the significance that these spiders do play with Cyril and certain stuff.
For sure,
which I found really cool.
I mean, I think that it's interesting with Cyril and those spiders. I mean, they are kind of trying to play this in a roundabout way. They're trying to play this Norman Bates thing with Cyril a little bit, where it's these taxidermy spiders, you know what I mean? Like that's some Norman Bates stuff, you know what I mean? So they're kind of trying to play into that a little bit, and I think that's some represent that
Spiderwick Chronicle type stuff. You just collect all the different made up stuff that exists that you can only see if you believe in stuff. It's crazy.
It's fascinating.
It is.
I love though. Just jumping around a little bit here, because I love that while Cassian's sort of out and about, that we are seeing Bix's sort of struggle with substances a little bit, because of her issues.
Substance abuse, yes, because of the nightmares that she keeps having about this Imperial doctor and the stuff he did to her. Yeah, no, it's cool. Again, another thing that people can relate to, because a lot of people out in the world have substance abuse problems. And for different reasons too, some people have it because of maybe something that she went through, or just because they've been on it since a young age, or depression, anxiety, whatever it is. It's almost in a way to me very sad to see, because her demeanor and just the way that she is changes so fast, and just you could tell in her face and in her eyes that she's just not the same, and that it's been having an effect on her. But and not, it's like a mixture of the nightmares and the experiences she had with that Imperial doctor mixed with the drugs just makes it, I feel like, even worse in a way. She has this small period of time where she feels relieved because she's not thinking about it and she's able to sleep. But at the same time, I feel like just over time, it's just going to make it worse, because it's just going to all come it's like a ball that's been just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and it's going to eventually just come and tumble into her and just hit her like a brick wall.
Right. And I feel that, watching this sort of thing is even more interesting because of where it all kind of ends up. But then you also had this interesting moment of Luthen comes in to interfere, in a way.
Right.
And I loved having a scene with just Bix and Luthen, honestly. I thought it was very, very amazing and it's actually on one end, Bix, the way I interpret this is like Bix thinks that Luthen wants something, but Luthen is actually, this is one of those few moments where we just get to see him be a human being and actually checking in. Like
checking in and seeing if like she's fine. Exactly.
Yeah, that's how I interpreted this whole thing, and I think it was important to have at least one of these because
it played amazingly, honestly.
Luthen actually knows what she's doing and what she's going through, and he's the only one that can maybe relate because of his sort of endeavors, and you're almost certain that he's gone through a similar thing. In fact, we see him abuse some substances a little later.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's really interesting when you start to piece it all together.
And we also see the stuff that he went through in his past life.
That's what I mean.
Before, So it all just comes around full circle.
Yeah, this is why this is great writing. I mean, it's just everything is. You can talk about
I feel like we're always just going to be just praising Tony Gilroy and the team that he built because I mean why won't you? I mean look at what he's done with this season. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's really unbelievably cool. On Will's side, you want to talk about substances? I mean, first of all,
he's hella abusing.
Yes, but let's talk about first of all this thing that he's trying to build for Saw because Saw partners him with somebody, right? He's like.
Oh yeah, we should probably go back to where this all first started.
100% before we get into his little substance abuse moment because like this is like the really
is
crazy...
that Will? Well, first off, isn't it that Will's been like kind of doing something else and then it ends up here in this place with Saw Gerrera?
What's really interesting is it's Dakar, which is where the Resistance sets up base in the Force Awakens. Exactly. So I love that little Easter egg and. History again. I mean, it's bringing all Star Wars together this show, and it's great. And so we have this little history on Dakar a little bit, but yeah, Will is on this base. He ends up with Saw, and basically, the big thing here was that Saw partnered him up, and Saw. It shows like how radical Saw is, but he could sense a traitor pretty immediately. Before even the audience can a little bit. I mean, we kind of get a sense.
Honestly, I
not really.
I don't think I got the slightest sense.
We really only get the sense when we look back and we see little hints, maybe.
Well, obviously,
but like but before that, it's this Saw is sensing it even before. I think
I was gonna say, looking back, the hints that gave it away to me that he was a traitor was like the fidgetiness of him and like how much he struggled and stuff like that. Because surely if you're appointed by Saw as like the best at doing this stuff, surely you wouldn't fidget and you'd be able to do it. So like those, I guess, looking back on it, would have been like hints to me that he was a traitor. But yeah, no, to me it's impressive with Saw how he was just able to sniff out that this dude was a traitor from the beginning. But you know what's so funny to me is why would he put Will through this? It's torture training an imposter how to do this when you're ultimately just gonna have him do it anyways. Like
well, these little radical moments though are really what starts to make me appreciate.
Although maybe it was more torturing the imposter on having to learn all this stuff than torturing Will on having to teach the guy this stuff. I think that's more what Saw Gerrera was wanting to do. I feel like
sure, but it leads into this whole thing of like I feel like Saw in a way is trying to create a soldier. At the end of the day. For the rebellion.
That too. I mean, I feel like there's just so many different things that Saul was trying to do with this one situation.
And it's really messed up the way he goes about it. But I think that because of that, it really makes me look at Rogue One and appreciate a scene like Paul Gellert. Remember that? Where he's got that little octopus thing going, so it really makes me appreciate something like that a lot more than I did the first time I saw the movie. I'm like, this is just way too out there for me the first time I watched it. But now when I look into this sort of thing, I'm like, wait a minute, there's like this is developed a little bit better now. I mean, because he's sitting there sucking in the shit, and he's just like, "Oh, she's my sister. She loves me." You're like, "What are you talking about, you crazy bastard?" like
I guess that's what that stuff does. That's what that substance does to me. I don't ever want to inhale a substance like that ever in my life.
Yeah, and you're just like, whoa, and then but it adds like this extra development.
I feel like he was almost like he was like not liking it at first, but then he just started loving it right like almost immediately. It was weird. It was really, really weird.
Yeah, but I also would say one of the most cinematic great scenes in this show. Like it's cinematically one of the greatest things in the show. Like to watch those scenes. Like they really, really play and work, man. Like
the intensity of Will trying to do all the maneuvers while it's raining it had crazy. Like beating out of my chest because of how intense it was. I loved it. And
it's one of those once he actually
finally gets it done.
Yeah.
Once Will finally gets it done, and Saw's just like embrace it, and then he just takes off his mask and just gets addicted to.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder, like, or it makes you look at Rogue One a little differently. All the scenes with Saw Gerrera, you're like, you realize like how whacked out this guy is, like, and like, how did he get this octopus there? Well, he probably had to sniff that shit. That's probably how it happened, like it's like. You look at those things and it oddly develops it a little bit further, and it's a lot of that show don't tell.
He probably thought the octopus was an actual female. You know what I mean?
He might
probably hallucinating from the substance. He thought it was an actual woman.
Yep. No, for sure. But but I love the performance from Forrest. Regardless, I just think it was
Forrest Whitaker just throughout this entire season did amazing in all of his scenes.
But we get around to the final episode, which is Cassian comes home. He gets to see Bix, and I do want to point out just a slight Easter egg of Cassian's like cooking for Bix, and I wonder, because I know like Diego Luna likes to cook in real life, I almost gotta wonder if that was something that Tony put in there for him. Like, hey, we got a scene of you cooking, because I know how much Diego Luna actually likes to cook. So that was a nice.
Now that I'm thinking about it, it may or may not have been mentioned in the declassified.
Oh, okay.
I think. Don't quote me on that.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't think I watched a lot.
Because I mean, those declassified were a while ago, so I'd have to go back and watch it to confirm or deny.
Yeah, but we kind of realized like Cassian ain't gonna put the do the job, because earlier on he had that conversation with Luthen, which was another great conversation a little bit. But like at the same time, like he's not gonna fulfill this because he doesn't think Gorman's worth it. So Luthen's like, all right, I'll give you your vacation time. You've earned your paid time off. I'm going to send Velenson to, which was a great way to follow up everything we were kind of waiting on from the first arc. And we got it. And there
was also, there was another, in my eyes, and another emotional scene when Cassian finds out that Luthen went to visit Bix while he was gone on Gore.
Right. Yeah.
Min, sorry.
Which happens as he's cooking for her, because she kind of like
which is a really intense scene, and I loved it.
I agree.
It was great.
I agree.
I mean,
yeah. No, I 100% agree. I think that's.
And then everything that Bix said in that too was great. I mean, their whole back and forth there. Again, like I said, their chemistry is just absolutely phenomenal. The way they can just go back and forth off of each other like that is a testament to their acting for sure.
That's why I love a lot of these scenes. Just the quieter ones are sometimes better because of that. Because you have these just conversations with great actors, just letting the great actors act, and doing it very well.
Just letting them do their stuff, and they just do it with such intensity and rawness. It's just great.
Yeah, they do an incredible job in these scenes. And same for Syntha and Vel. Like everything between them is very, very good. It really works.
Oh my goodness.
It's carried on from the first season, even better here, and we're starting to learn a little bit more what happened between those time gaps, and and why they didn't see each other. And it was very, very, very well developed. I mean, it really was. It felt like we were filling in those gaps very, very well. And at the same time, this relationship, what happens here is very emotional.
Because they basically just like fall in love within a short amount of time of basically reuniting again.
Yeah. It's almost like, but no time has passed, even though we've had these gaps.
No time has passed, but time has passed. Like at the same time.
Yeah.
Because an actual reality, time has passed, but in their mind and heart, no time has passed.
100%,
which is great.
I like that this is happening congruently with the gallery scene, where they're all going to the gallery, and this is like one of those selfish nitpicks that broke my heart. And I know that when they get to the gallery, they have the recast of Bail Organa. Benjamin Bratt is now playing Bail, which did a great job, by the way.
He did, yeah.
And I want to give him all the credit in the world for making it feel like the character, but doing it in his own way. But also, just breaks my heart that it's not Jimmy Smits. I just really love Jimmy Smits in that role. It's just so iconic. But scheduling, so what can you do? We're not there. But it was important to include Bale. You can't do the show without him. You need him there. And so they that was the first introduction, was at the gallery. But yeah, I was also just happy to see, there's going to be some Mon Mothma stuff, like very significant Mon Mothma stuff in this.
I did this with my hand because it just reminded me of when Clea was trying to unscrew the thing. And
I know exactly what you were doing. We get this great moment with Lonnie. Clea knows that there's
that was really funny, by the way, too. That shit was funny. I loved it. It was hilarious.
It was funny. But Clea knows that we got to go get these listening devices out of this piece, otherwise it's coming back with us. And she goes in and gets it done, and then just the way that the tension is built, because we're cutting back and forth between what's happening with Vel and Sita and Gorman. Between
and it's funny too when like Clea just keeps telling the dude to like not move or like move right or left. It's and it has my heart beating like I kind of like my heart was beating out of my chest during the scene. It was like, is she gonna get it done? Is she not? And then when I see her hands start bleeding, I'm like,
oh man, you feel it too, you really do. And then what I love is like Krennic comes up to the piece and you still just don't know if she succeeded or not. Like I love that little added detail, and then it's not until the way out that you realize, she succeeded.
So you realize that she actually got it.
I love Luthen's joke of, you should have killed Krennic while you were at it. Like I thought that was really funny, and the fact that they got to have like a really nice laugh together was really good. A really human moment that I think connects to something we figure out later about these two, Clea and Luthen. But yeah, nice to have that little moment, and we also start to move into, though, at the same time, Vel and Cinta, which is like, this is such a bold scene.
Getting these guns from an Imperial shipment.
Yeah, and it's just like this unfortunate accident that this dude had to fire off his weapon and hits Cinta, and she dies. And this is the type of shit that happens in reality that irritates me, but needed to be shown. But was
honestly, I cried for Vel, bro. I can't even lie to you. I cried for Vel because I was like, bro, she literally just like got the love of her life back in her life, and now she's already gone. It's like,
it was so tragic. And
then what really got me was the scene with Vel talking to the guy who got her killed in the first place. That right there, that whole speech from Vel was chef's kiss. It was phenomenal, the way that she was like, no, you don't get to cry for her because you didn't know her like how I did. It's like,
oh my god.
I mean, you're not wrong there. Like he did not know her like you did.
Like,
oof.
And she's just saying very explicitly to the dude all the things that she loved about Cinta and why.
Man,
they were. It was so emotional and bold, and just like it was a gut punch.
I think that might have been my favorite performance from Faye for Vel.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. 100%. I'm glad that she got to have this moment because it was very well performed and just like
it was
very needed. And it expanded upon that relationship because again, we have these year gaps and things that we don't get to really see. And it's so important to have that. It's doing a lot with very little. I also just love, Cassian gets called out for another job, and Bix is like, I'm going with you. And I'm sitting here thinking, that's not going to work out the way you wanted to. Until we realize, Luthen has
what
humanity.
The job was.
The job is to
kill the Imperial Doctor that gave her the nightmares. Yep.
I thought that was
that scene was an amazing scene, by the way. The frame within a frame that they did where they had the camera like here facing the Doctor, and then Biggs coming like from behind and handcuffing him up and then putting the headphones on his head, and oh my goodness, man. And then the scene where they're walking away and then the building just I was like, oh I love that. That is an incredible shot. Which we got to see obviously in the trailer for the season.
Yeah,
but seeing it here in the show is really cool.
It's great to see these characters get a little bit.
His
back.
screams too, by the way. The Imperial Doctor screams too when he has the headphones on.
It's great to see them get a little bit.
And then
back
it just muffles. Or no, actually, it's just quiet when he's screaming, which I love too, because it's like. He can't hear himself scream, so it's like we have the headphones on and we can't hear ourselves scream. So I loved how they did that way. I loved it.
It's what's great about it is it's such a little victory, kind of in the grand scheme, but like at the same time because this show is so focused on the
really big victory for Biggs too. Right. Yeah,
because it's such a character focused show, it just feels huge to us comparatively, and I just love that. I thought that was great, but it was so well set up. You know,
honestly, every single victory for me in this show was a big victory when it came to, you know, the rebellion winning, because it really is, because like you said, it's so character driven and character heavy that any single like little win for each character still felt like a big win because they just deserve it, to be honest.
And it was just so well set up to where like that moment didn't feel like random. Like it wasn't just like random that he went out on the Doctor. Like we knew that the Doctor was, you know, saying some things, you know, and like that could get the rebellion in trouble, and so it wasn't random at the same time, you know what I mean? Like they, you know, it was all paid off very well, and I just I really enjoyed that. But then we had the next arc, man. Then we moved back into we're moving into 2 BBY 2. That's correct. And then we're sitting here. I mean, this is the stuff that a lot of people are going to be talking about here because it's really, I mean. These are like the moments where there's an episode here, I think you know what I'm talking about, where it's like it's probably one of the best episodes of Star Wars TV. You know, it's like
for sure.
It stands out on its own. I mean, the first episode is, you know, really just kind of going back to Gorman and setting it back up. You know, like okay, like all right, so we're gonna go through with Gorman. You know, we got to get things done here. But
they have the guns that they need to do stuff, you know.
Yeah, the most important thing is the fact that Deidre Miro is on Gorman, and this is the moment where we're supposed to take her out because she's just causing way too much trouble for us. And let's go.
Which is the target that Cassian has been given now with a separate identity, not the fashion designer, a different one now.
Correct.
Oh, we forgot to mention too. The first conversation that he had with the bellboy.
Yes, he's so good.
Cool. That was a really cool. Good. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, just and
then the conversation they had at the front desk too when Cassian Andor comes back the second time. Like, yeah, he just did a phenomenal job. I absolutely hats off to him. It was incredible.
The way that he's just speaking in code the whole time, like, you know, I know what's going on here.
Yeah,
he
knows.
It's so good, man. It's so well written, and just that actor did such a good job. And
also, when we talk about the gun that Cassian brought, like the amount of pieces the thing required was crazy. I think it had like 9 pieces. I was like, bro, what do you have, a jigsaw puzzle? Like,
yeah, it was so cool, man, because we never really get to see that, like in some other material where they're putting these weapons.
I love how it just hid like under his, like he had that little flap where his clothes was on top. You open the flap and there's the gun. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where it's like, you know,
it gave me James Bond-esque, where he's just like,
it was 100% James Bond. Like everything,
dude, I loved it.
Yeah, everything here was James Bond. Yeah, 100%. Like it was so James Bond in that way, but it was also this thing of like, you know, you have to realize like like I love the conversation of like, do I have to like take 2 shots or 1? You know what I mean? And it's like you probably do need a gun that size to get through that window to hit her. You know what I mean? Because that's what she's gonna be, and so you kind of realize like that's very important. But yeah, you're right, man. Just that sort of the bellboy stuff and just the way it's all coded, you know. But one of my favorite shots ever in this entire show was him looking out with that mirror and seeing those stormtroopers guarding his room.
Oh my goodness! And the conversations that they're having.
That was so good. That was just
another frame within a frame. There was a lot of frame within frames in this show that I just absolutely loved. There were some really good ones.
Yeah, that was so good. And you know, Cyril's really the one ratting everybody out here. You know, at this point, like this is where you're really realizing like how much information he's giving so that they could be successful on Gorman. My take on this is that I'm interested to know what you think. But my take is that, given some of the conversations that Deidre was having with Krennic toward the beginning, was always to create some sort of chaos on Gorman.
Yeah,
and I think that was always preconceived, whether they knew it or not. Yeah, and I think that they knew exactly what they were doing this whole time.
Look, the rebellion, the Gore people taking the guns and wanting to do a rebellion, look, the Gore people were playing checkers while ISB was playing chess.
Yeah,
that's how I see it.
That's how I looked at it too. Yeah, the whole time I think that they always knew what this was going to end up being.
ISB was like 5 steps ahead of the people of Gore. Man.
Yeah, I think that they knew that they wanted to create some sort of chaos, regardless. And
and they said that too, that they knew that that they would rebel, and that's why you see in the scene that I'm about to mention, they block it all off.
Yeah. Before we move any further into this arc, I do want to talk about back on the home base at Yavin 4 though, because I want to circle back because we kind of missed. We need to talk about the way that this show uses the Force in a very different way than a lot of the other material.
Very true.
It was very brilliantly done. It's
yes, that one lady with Cassian.
Yeah, yep. She's a Force healer.
Force healer.
And I love that it starts to set up Cassian's skepticism of the Force, though, too. Which never really goes away, even through Rogue One. I mean, I harken back to the line of, I'm beginning to think the Force and I have different priorities, than that line in Rogue One. Like, it's so good. And it makes even more sense when we start to see all this.
Just love his reaction when he looks at his back and sees that he's actually healed as well. Like, what he had, like, isn't bothering him anymore, and all that. And it's like, it's kind of like, ooh, do I believe in it or not? It's like, is that just like coincidence or what is it?
Yeah, you get the sense. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but you do get the sense by the end that he at least accepts that it's a real thing. Which does play into a lot of the stuff in Rogue One, the Guardians of the Wills, right? And also the fact that
I'm one with the Force is with me. I'm one with the Force is with me.
Well, Baze Malbus, when they're in the prison, like, oh my gosh, our boy Donnie Yen, he's trying to get them out of the prison in Rogue One. Yeah. And Cassian's getting a little upset, but like Baze is like, well, he's upset because he knows it's true. He knows it's real. The Force is real. He knows. And like this plays all into that. Like he does know it. He just hates that it's real.
I also feel like that's also why he didn't interrupt him saying, I'm one with the Force is with me, saying it. So he said it so many times. I feel like that's why Cassian didn't interrupt him, is because he knows that it's real.
Yeah, it's very layered and it's jumping a little far ahead, but like I always kind of feel like he doesn't want to accept that the Force is real because he kind of thinks like, well, where was the Force? Why did the Force bring me my sister back?
Exactly.
Where was my sister? Why didn't they bring me my sister back if it's all magical power? And I kind of think that's the way Cassian thinks.
It's literally like people who start doubting that God exists. It's because if you're real, then why did my sister die, or why did my dad die? Like stuff like that. Yeah.
I think it's Cassian. I know it's real, but I hate that it's real because it didn't help me. You know what I mean? And I think that's.
Exactly.
It helped me in a very minor way. I fixed my freaking shoulder. That's about it, and that's, it can help in minor ways, but it can't do these big things. Why? And I think that's Cassian's biggest struggle, with this whole Force thing. But I think it's very important that this happens for Bix's arc. You know what I mean? Learning that it's real, learning that Cassian has a purpose. The Force healer saying like, that one's a messenger. That one, he has a place to be. The Force healer I love is not she's not fully in tune with the Force, or she can't really see the future. She's just sitting there saying, this is what I can sense from my limited amount, because she even tells Bix, well, maybe you're the place he needs to be. Maybe, but Bix knows, and we know as the audience, that's not true,
Exactly.
And so I just, but I just love that. I love that. And it really works. And I think it plays in really, really nicely for things moving forward.
Now that I'm thinking about it, we haven't talked about Major Partagaz yet.
No, Partagaz is a very important thing here. But yeah, go ahead.
I mean, yeah. So in the episodes that he's been in so far, and just the scenes that he's been in has just been incredible. Basically bossing everyone around, telling them what to do, and just being this assertive higher up. It's basically like the army. He's he's the one in command, and he's just telling everyone what they need to do, and they just obey, say yes, I'll do it. It's great. And I just loved everything that he did in the season, especially in the future episodes that we will get to.
Yes, we do need to talk about Partagaz in the future, especially. But everything is very consistent with him for the first season. He's very assured and very sure of himself and what he's doing until he's not, and we'll get to that a little bit.
True.
Yeah,
we will.
Oof, that's a thing.
Yeah, no, I can't lie. We're thinking about the same scene as well. That's the thing. We're thinking about the same one. Yeah.
Anyway, but I guess like all this, I just love the groundwork that the 7th episode set up, but then moving into the 8th episode, I think that this is the big one because everything has taken place now. We're starting to get there.
Yeah, it's the rebellion essentially.
Yeah, this is. I mean, Gorman.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to talk about is the song that they start singing.
Ooh, well.
That is a really good song. That was really cool.
Well, the setup to this, hang on, because the setup to this, we will get to that. But the setup is basically like we're still kind of following. Cassian needs to take out Deidre. His only form of contact out here is Will, and
who has a girlfriend apparently now.
And I think part of what's building our attention as the audience members is for the very first time since season 1, Cassian and Cyril are in the same location. And it's built so well,
and they don't know it. And they don't know it as well
by each other like it's it's really a crazy scenario coincidence. And the reason I think that this does work in a lot of ways, outside of just the big scenes, the tragedies that happened in this episode, is the Cyril Karn full circle moments. And I think that we got to give a lot of credit to Cyril. And we're starting to realize that he got duped where, the gentleman, he's telling him, like, this is what's going on, man. Are you understanding this? Like, what we're going through? And Cyril's like, this is rumor. He does not believe it. And so he has to go confront Deidre. And this crazy serial killer instinct that he starts to get is, like, putting his arms around her neck and, like,
just choking the crap out of her.
Oh, my God. It's like, what great in-depth character moments.
Didn't they have an interaction before all this on Coruscant? They had to, because he dies in this one.
I don't know.
Remember in her house in Coruscant, they had that interaction where oh, did we already?
I did. I mentioned how he was kind of ratting out, those moments. And they do have this like moment, this one final.
In that scene, that scene too, I really did enjoy too.
So to be fair, to expand on what I was saying earlier, I didn't expand on it as much, I guess, but like they did have this one final moment as like a couple prior to this, you know what I mean? But just knowing now, I guess, that it's their final moment as a couple that way. Yes, it does make all this more impactful, the fact that it's like, and once he figures it out, I do love the line, you didn't seem to mind the promotions, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm getting that off of it you're getting that off of, stuff I'm doing out here, and, but I'm also kind of using you for information at the same time, whatever. We're going to live a great life after this.
That right there, like that line that they said is like, you didn't seem to mind the promotions. It reminds me of, in Daredevil in the last season when Wilson Fisk was basically, he had like so much dirt on all these people, giving them promotions so they can make more money, but they didn't know that they were working for Wilson Fisk. Correct. I feel like this is the same thing here for Cyril. He's like, he got these promotions where he's going to get paid more and have a better life, but he just didn't know who he was working for, what exactly he was actually doing. It's a cool correlation in my head.
He didn't realize what was paying his bills, at the end of the day. And,
exactly.
And that was the big thing. And I love that, at the end of the day, like, at the end of all of it, he's done. He's over it. He's like, okay, Deidre, good luck. I'll see you later. I'm not part of this anymore. I love it. He puts his hands up in that way. But he's seeing all this destruction that was caused primarily by him and his information for the Gorman and all that. But before that even starts, like you were saying, like we're seeing it makes it so much more tragic that we're spending more time with the Gore that we spent time with throughout the entire season, and we're seeing how they're trying to just stand up for their planet because they have nothing else left. Even though they've put up that much of a fight beforehand, whether it be earlier in the season when they were putting listening devices in Cyril's office, or trying to figure it out any way they can. And all they are left to is singing a song, singing their national anthem, whatever it might
Which was amazing. Oh my goodness, I loved it.
That's their final weapon. They have all this technology. That's their final weapon.
You know what really got me too was the fact that it was the guy who was roasting all the gore in the first place who started the song.
Yeah,
I like how that came full circle, and he was the one that actually started the song, and then everyone else started eventually joining in. I thought it was a really cool full circle moment for him for sure.
Yeah, and that's all they have left of all the tech they have. That's all they can use.
Song,
it's crazy, man. That's what they're come to, but they're also smart enough to know that we're outnumbered. We can't fight all these stormtroopers and all these Imperials that are here on our planet.
Oh, and there's some other things. There's some other things that are about to come out too that we're going to talk about that makes it even more impossible.
Yes, those Imperial droids come out later on, but yeah.
Yep.
But shit hits the fan, right? It just took one person to take a shot, and shit hits the fan. But it was always going to happen. And you knew it because
obviously
you knew it because the order
they were delaying the inevitable, essentially. To be honest.
You knew it. The order beforehand was fire at will, and you knew it. You just knew what was going to happen, and you can see, like, even when Deidre gives this order, she's a little hesitant about it, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. But like, she has to give the order that she has to give. She's kind of at checkmate here. And it makes you realize that even she didn't realize everything that was going to happen today. She even though she was partly responsible too, everything she planted in Krennic's head from the very beginning. You kind of need, like, organized chaos. But at the same time,
because like one thing that made her skeptical about doing it, I think, is because she knew that Cyril was still out there, and he runs the risk of being killed by a crossfire or something.
Right.
So,
well, there's that, and also how many of her own people did she lose that day? You know what I mean? Because so many of her troopers got killed, and that's not.
Here's the thing: is anyone else in her position who doesn't have a heart would just be like, it's a
right.
It's just numbers. Ultimately, it's just numbers, and it needs to be done because. Yeah. As long as we come out on top, it doesn't matter how many we lose. We've come out on top. So
yeah, and I don't think she's thought that.
That just shows that, as I said. Well, that also just shows that she has heart, compared to a lot of these other ISB officers and stuff who might not necessarily have as much heart or a heart at all compared to her.
Yeah, so, this shows the humanity of somebody in the Empire like Deidre, and this continues to do that, and I love that. What I love is, like, but like we were saying,
we talk about how many times Cassian could have actually killed Deidre with a headshot, but just didn't take the shot.
Yeah,
I found that pretty interesting.
Well, part of it could be a little bit of Cassian's humanity. I think that, like, we're trying to start to,
which we find. I was gonna say we see his humanity too when he decided not to kill Galen Erso in Rogue One.
Yeah.
He could have taken the shot because he had so many opportunities.
You're not wrong. Shot, but it's a good parallel. You're not wrong.
Yeah, you see.
Yeah, it does work that way. You're not wrong. And so I
guess it's him just seeing the good in everyone.
Yeah,
essentially.
I mean, it's a little bit of, like, this is the one that we need to take. Like, this is going to end a lot of things if we take this one out. This is maybe the biggest kill I've ever made, and I think that there's part of that going through his head too. It's the most important shot I've ever taken at this point. And also, I think there's that hesitancy about, will it break the window, will it not? Because I think he's still a little unclear on that too. So that's kind of playing in. I think there's a lot of things that play here.
It's like, will it penetrate the glass and actually hit her and kill her, or will it just like stop in the window? Like,
I think he's trying to line himself up for the perfect shot too. I think there's a little bit of that.
There were a lot of other couple of distractions that took his attention away from the headshot, or just the shot in general, like the explosion that happened with the stormtroopers and him, like bullets kind of just straying towards him and stuff. So
by no means do I have any issue with the execution of all this. I mean, it just worked so well.
I mean, this whole Gorman rebellion scene was phenomenal. I mean, there was a lot of sad moments, a lot of happy moments seeing stormtroopers die, but then sad moments seeing these Gore die, especially the ones that we've grown closer to, the ones involved with the hijack of the guns, for example. Seeing all of them die just really made me sad.
Especially
when the Imperial droids come out, the K2SOs, if you will.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they come out and they start wrecking shop. Yeah,
they grabbed and just launched her. I was like, oh,
yeah,
dang.
Yeah, and it's like it's that thing, man. It's just like every death in this is like all these people died, and for what? You know, it's just that thing, and it's just because we can't see eye to eye on something, and you kind of take it back to the very original. I mean, it's all Palpatine from the very beginning. And it's crazy to think about it that way, but it's true, and it's like it's wild.
Everything's always just Palpatine. That's
it's really wild to just start to put it in perspective and the actual tragedies.
I think there's I don't know if you want to get into the scene that we should probably talk about that happens in this episode
with Cyril and Andor.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, Cyril's looking around at all this gunfire and he's realizing like what he's.
I love the slow-mo muffled sound that they do when he's like looking around at everything that's happening.
Great sound design.
Oh my goodness,
amazing.
The best choice I think for that scene right there with Cyril just like crying, just in shock of like what's happened. And
finally figuring out like I'm the cause of all this, and what started this from the very beginning was Cassian Andor, and there he is, and it's like
and he goes and tackles him because Andor finally actually has the headshot. He's about to pull the trigger, it seems like, and then Cyril just comes and tackles him to the ground.
It's such a very human brawl too. It's just mono. There's nothing else going on right now. It's just
even though they both tried to reach for the gun. Sometimes they either an explosion knocked the gun further back, or the other one came and interrupted them before they could really actually get the gun in their hand. It was like you said, it was a very macho fight.
And after all that obsession, Cyril wanting to be important and wanting to be significant, his last thing he hears from Cassian is, "Who are you?" He has no idea who he is, and it's just, oh my gosh, it's. Some of the
all that for
writing.
what?
Yeah, exactly. And then
finally Gore just comes and
the interesting part of this and the tragedy of it is we start to see Cyril put the blaster down, and before
before he dies. Yeah.
Once he realizes I'm not significant at all,
And I think, and then here's the thing too is I think Cassian notices it too, because when he sees Cyril die, he's like, no, why is he dead? Who killed him? Why is he dead? It's
exactly.
Like he didn't want Cyril dead.
No, it's tragic. And in another life, they could have been allies,
best friends. They could have been buddies.
Well, they're ultimately two people fighting on the same side at that point, because Cyril's he don't care that he's about to kill Deidre. He doesn't know who he's taking that shot for. It was nothing to do with that. At the end of the day, it was I caused all this, and for what? This guy is the reason that I'm here from the very beginning.
He doesn't even know who I am.
Yeah. Insanity. And then then we, like I said, we had the very human brawl, which we've already kind of talked about.
I can't lie, I also cried when Cyril died.
It was sad, man.
So sad.
And I just love what Kyle Soller brought to the role this season. I think he deserves a lot of credit for what he's brought to this role.
If this show doesn't get any kind of Emmys, I'm gonna be
it's really unbelievable how they paid this off, and then then it's like, this is the true payoff to all these slow scenes with his mother, and we'll get to that in a minute.
Because after Cyril dies, they're trying to escape, and Will is like, no, I can't leave. I need my girlfriend. Essentially, I mean, that's what I see her as to Will, is his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And so he's like, all right, cool. And then, oh my gosh, the whole thing with the K2SO droid was really cool.
Yeah, well,
where Will just comes in and absolutely demolishes that thing in half with some big ass transport.
Yeah. I mean, an introduction they've changed from the comics, which I'm just okay with, because I don't know, it was just such an insignificant little one-off run of comics, but at the same time, like this was just better, I guess, and at the same and the way that they, and Cassian saying, hey, wait, well, one more favor, but he's got to leave Will behind. It's all very tragic, and just him driving off and getting
with the K2SO droid,
but getting that voiceover too over the comms of that woman who just and just looking at this from one innocent individual's perspective of this whole thing, and it's just, oh my gosh, it's devastating, and it gets you emotional, man, when you watch it.
And then obviously once you see Cassian Andor driving away with the parts for the K2SO. You know that's going to be our K2SO that we see in Rogue One.
It was just such a great choice, though, to just have him drive off with that close up, and then you get that single tear that comes down his face, and
oh my goodness, it made me drop a single tear.
Yeah, I know for sure. And we're seeing the montage of all the death and devastation and people that we've known.
And all just the smoke from all the explosions and stuff. Yeah,
and I mean, this is the one too, man. I mean, like, and at the very, very end of it, we're just seeing it all happen, and you're just like, I mean, this is the one at the end. Luckily, Will survives it, and his girl survived it, whatever, But like at the end of the day, like, you're still at the end. This one, the credits rolled, and just wow. I was just like, whoa, this is that was
my immediate reaction. Was just like, whoa.
Yeah, like you're like, oh my god, I can't believe like.
And right after the woe was, I can't wait for the next 3 episodes.
Yeah. Well, you got one more here in this arc, which is the breaking Mon Mothma out. Which is,
the whole with the speech and all that.
Yeah. So can't praise Genevieve O'Reilly enough for this performance.
Oh, definitely not. Come on,
she is a standout actress. I mean, this is the episode where it really all started to hit me with, this girl got cast as Mon Mothma in Revenge of the Sith for scenes that didn't even make it in the movie. And
which I've seen those scenes as well, by the way, and those are some good scenes.
They're very good.
Yeah, they are.
But I mean, the fact that Tony Gilroy, or whatever power at Lucasfilm said that Genevieve O'Reilly needs to be your Mon Mothma, and made it happen, and then here we are. It's like this is the episode. All that kind of came washing over me, because it really is insanity the way that this plays, because we're finally seeing a scene. We're figuring out why Mon's been in the show, so eventually her and Andor can come together, and Andor's significance in getting Mon Mothma over to Yavin. And Mon Mothma's, trying to practice her speech, and there's these listening devices, which is insane. And we're kind of coming to a head with her and Luthen finally, and her and like not trusting Luthen and not knowing who to trust.
Well, yeah, because I mean, it turns out her assistant was working with Luthen the whole time,
right? And then I love the callback to Tay. Remember Tay? And you killed him because you just thought you wrote him off quickly. How do I know you won't write me off quickly? And it all just makes so much sense because it's all been set up and played so well. And then the relationship between her and Bail is fleshed out here, which I love, which is, that thing of like, oh, by the way, Bail's line of tear the shit out of this place is incredible. The way they use the code words of the usage of code words, such as like, I have friends everywhere, the way that was used with this guy who's been working with
for
the whole time. And just,
the Cassian comes up and says, I've got friends everywhere.
Incredible writing. And we're getting like this balance of the fun Star Wars a little bit again, but we're also kind of like at this place of like, oh, it's still very intense. Like, I mean, we're getting the setup of Bail's team is corrupted, and we're seeing all that play out. And then when Cassian goes to Mon, it takes some convincing. It's very realistic the way it's played, though. And then really, I think
what convinced her was when he said, "I have friends everywhere."
Yeah. Well, let me talk about too really quick. Let's stop for a second and just take in that speech.
Let's talk about her. Yeah, I was gonna say let's talk about her speech because I saw I think it was in the Declassified. They said that the writing when they sat down, they had actually Genevieve O'Reilly sit down during the writing of that speech too, so she could have an opinion on what should be Mon Mothma's speech, which I found really, really cool.
Yeah,
and man, her delivery of that speech was just A tier, man.
Yeah.
That was
what's cool about it is you get to see a little bit of that in Rebels, because it does line up with the Rebels episode where she's making that speech as well. And it really, it's a little bit of a rewrite of that speech, but this one's obviously more impactful, so I don't really mind the rewrite. The same point is getting across where in Rebels, I think it was Ezra that was like, I can't believe she said that about Palpatine, and so the point is still getting across still in this version of it, and even more so, and just like it's giving Genevieve O'Reilly another shot at it to do it right.
I think Bail Organa's facial expression at the end of her speech was really cool too.
Yeah. It was so good, so powerful.
It was.
But we're getting that Star Wars suspense and fun that we're used to, where he's breaking her out, and it's just like this is upbeat, like we're on a mission, and I love that. It takes me back to New Hope quite a bit.
And there's intensity scenes where you think, are they going to make it out? Because they're they have the corrupted people on Bale's team, have them at gunpoint and stuff. And then that scene really had me laughing when when they say I can't remember what the ex-assistant of Mon Mothma says, and then
the driver
Cassian the lady that has the gun pointed at Cassian and Mon Mothma, and then the ex-assistant was like, oh, she's I don't know what he says, and then she goes to shoot, and then Cassian just takes out his pistol and just kills her.
Oh, she's a rebel spy is what they say.
Rebel spy, that's what it is.
Yeah, that made me laugh too. That made me chuckle too.
Goes, and then Cassian just boom kills her.
That made me chuckle too. And it's really the thing that makes it kind of hilarious is the fact that it's this quick on your feet thinking, which we see, which to me her seeing that person die was the moment of convincing that they were corrupt and you need to come with me now, and because it's like I love that line. The best line in this whole episode was Cassian and welcome to the rebellion, because when she's like,
oh my goodness,
that was awesome.
What other scene made me laugh too was when
the driver
the guy that helped Cassian, who again was in disguise again, helped him kind of get he couldn't get a seat, but he could hear from the screen or whatever when he was trying to shut down the speech, and those two people were like, oh, we put in this thing where you have to
they're delaying it.
That shit was hilarious. I found that so funny as well, because the facial expressions of the guy were just so funny.
That's a great scene, because it cuts off at the right moment. She still gets to get that insult out about Palpatine, so it can line up with the stuff that happens to Rebels and all that. So that's very cool.
But now we're getting to the scene with the driver, which I also found hilarious.
Dude, what's the Cloris? Cloris, we found her, and then just blasts his
boom,
ass.
dead.
Yeah,
because he's like, oh, Cloris, we found. And then my mouth was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, oh, Cloris, we find you. Boom, dead.
This poor guy. He just threw him off so bad. It was just but I love that consistency of Cassian does not.
Because it's funny because Cassian's like, so what's his name? What's the name? Oh, Clarence. Oh, Clarence, we find her. She's like, what are you doing? Boom, dead.
Yeah, that was.
It was the whole build. It was just funny. Man. It was hilarious.
But he gets her out, and it's this whole episode is so visually beautiful as well, man. I mean, just I love the shot of the ship flying out and taking her to Yavin, and I love this little conversation that they get to have of what can I do for you? So make it worth it. That's Cassian's, whole thing, and which Mon Mothma essentially does throughout the entire original trilogy, whatever, and even then some, and we're seeing her make it worth it in Ahsoka again, they're trying to, doing her best, so it just plays it plays through everything, just that one little line that make it worth it plays through everything. It's this is what makes this my favorite Star Wars thing, man. It's just all these things.
Facts.
Anyway, but and so it's great, and then Cassian gets off, and she needs to make the speech from another ship, and that plays into the Rebels episode where we ultimately know she's going to go meet up with Ezra and Hera and Zeb and Kanan. She's going to go make a second speech with them, and that's going to be broadcast, and that's how the rebellion's going to really start. So I love that how lines up.
And talking about Hera, I don't know if you when rewatching Rogue One, it's one thing that really caught my attention was
Syndulla.
Where they say Captain Syndulla. I was like, oh, that's Hera. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
And Chopper's around there too in the base. You can see Chopper.
Yes, I did notice that too. I was like, oh wow, they just put Rebels into Rogue One. I love it.
Yeah, I love how these two coincide. These two stories
so much as well. Yeah,
it'd be such an awesome marathon in between Cassian Andor and Rebels. Trying to line that up would be kind of a pain in the ass, but at the same time, it'd be fun. It'd be fun. Do the best that you can.
Here's the thing: is there's some fans out there that would that have the time that would do it 100%.
Well, the way I was thinking, probably the best way to do it. Season 1 of Andor, season 1 of Rebels, arc 1 of Andor. No, you can't do it that way. Season 1 of Andor, arc 1 of Andor, season 2, Rebels season 1, arc 2 of Rebels, or arc 2 of Andor, season 2, Rebels season 2, and then arc 3, which is this arc, of Andor, Rebel season 3, and they would line up kind of perfectly because this is season 3 is where the Mon Mothma stuff. This is where they really start to.
What about the 4th arc of Andor? That'd be what at the end?
Yeah, do the 4th arc of Andor, then Rebel season 4. You know, or Rogue One, then Rebel season 4. Sorry, Rogue One, then Rebel season. I don't know.
Season 4.
Yeah,
and then episode 4, 5, and 6. Like
it'd be tricky, but I think there's a way to like switch off where you can make it work. Yeah, I don't know, man, but either way, I do love how they coincide, regardless, and it's very cool. To see
amazing
how those two shows work together to make up
so much.
Rogue One, New Hope, and everything moving forward now into Ahsoka. Sure. It's all kind of bleeding into one another, so it's really great stuff. Anyway, excuse me. So, what I really love though is this ending is the powerful moment of he comes back and he's done, and he tells Bix he's done, and you kind of believe him. Even though we know it's not, he has to come back to the rebellion somehow as an audience
obviously because of Rogue One. Yeah,
it's just he says it with such conviction that it's just so believable.
He does.
And it's just like he's
and,
really.
And this thing is Bix really did believe him as well.
100%, and she did. That's because he said it with such conviction.
She then, in the next scene, he wakes up and she's not there, and finds a video message that she recorded for him saying, "You can't leave because you're meant to stay and finish this through. So I have left so that you don't." I was like,
this moment,
that whole video message was like, what? And then, oh my god! And then him running to try and catch her.
This is such a it's such a powerful moment, but you're just like, or Bix knows she has to.
Bix crying while saying the message too, just absolutely got me.
Oh yeah. I mean, hats off to Adria Arjona, who gives an incredible performance in this. I mean, she's so amazing at what she does as an actress, but she knew at the end of the day, and a lot of it does harken back to the Force Healer at the beginning of this arc, where it's like. She knew she had to take herself off the table. She had to take herself out of the equation, or nothing would get done. And the important thing that needs to happen is not going to happen as long as she's part of this and part of this equation.
Right.
And so she takes herself out of it.
Part of the crew, part of the ship. I'm just kidding.
And she's not wrong. Cassian is meant for this because the guy says, "Hey, you're a droid." And you see how quickly he snaps right back into the rebellion, pilot. Or it's
exactly. His brain flips from love interest with Bix to all right, rebellion.
Yeah,
let's go. We need to finish this.
He is meant for it, and I just love. This is our K2SO origin, which is fantastic. I mean,
Alan Tudyk
comes back to life. Yes, great to hear Alan Tudyk back with a great opening line of, I'd appreciate you pointing that out.
Could you please point that? Yeah, could you please point that elsewhere?
Such good stuff, and then such a great final shot of Cassian slowly starting to put the blaster down and then
down. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Noticing that it's not actually still programmed to be an Imperial droid that wants to kill them.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, I gotta watch the show again. So good. I'm
literally gonna go just season 1, season 2, like back to back without stopping because
it's phenomenal.
It's just gonna gel so much better together. I might even just go. I'm gonna just go Andor season 1, 2, and then Rogue One as well. Like, watch it all, binge it all through.
Yeah, I mean, this is just bringing the right amount of respect back into Star Wars that it needs, and just I mean, I'll reiterate that all day, but then we have our final arc, though, man, and it's
before we get into that arc, can I go to the bathroom?
Yes, you may use the restroom. Not kindergarten. You can go pee. Anyway,
you know when?
Anyway. No, it's okay. I was going to ask him in a minute if I could refill my drink. Maybe he could stall for a sec. But anyway, that's when he gets back. But we are moving into our final arc, and I'll stall 1 second here. Just kind of wanting to reiterate Spotify, guys. We are on Spotify now. Please go follow us over there, and I think you can rate and review. You can listen to Spotify while you're on your drives. And it's really convenient for me, especially when you're using like that Apple CarPlay or Android Auto even, like you guys can use one of those. And if you could pull up an episode right from there now, that's fantastic. And you get these early. You really do. If you go follow us there, and it's much appreciated. And I also do want to know what you guys thought of the season and the conversation so far. We love talking with you guys about this stuff. And we just want to know all your thoughts on everything we talked about so far, and we're about to get into the
Arc 4, baby.
final arc of this thing. But we you can go ahead and start us out, Jose, if you don't mind if I go refill my drink real quick.
Yeah, you go ahead and I can start, and when you get back, I can just let you know what I've.
Yeah, no problem. I'll try to catch up. It shouldn't take me long.
All right,
thanks.
All right,
appreciate you.
Yeah, of course. So yes, guys, in this fourth arc, which are the last 3 episodes, 10, 11, 12, we start with. We start with, I believe it's Luthen grabbing which we actually forgot to mention, that Luthen has had this mole in the ISB the whole time that has been gathering information on everything that the Empire's been doing, and holds a meeting with him to figure out what exactly all this has ultimately been leading up to. The whole Gorman mining of kyber crystals, Jeddah, and Keflir. Yeah, is that what it is? Yeah. What all that stuff was for was because they're building the Death Star. Project Death Star, which obviously we see used in Rogue One and in Episode 4, so on and so forth. But obviously this ISB agent is hesitant at first because he wants to make sure that he and his family is going to be safe. And Luthen, so I was just talking about the meeting that Luthen has with, which we forgot to mention, the ISB agent, that mole that he had. We forgot to mention him as well. And
no, we talked about Lonnie when we were talking about the gallery stuff.
You did say Lonnie. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I was just talking about the meeting that they had in Coruscant, where he was telling him about ultimately what, everything was for, the mining of the kyber crystals in Gorman and the, Jeddah and Keflir, what all that stuff was ultimately been for, which is the Death Star.
Yeah.
As we see in Rogue One. But I was saying how he was hesitant at first because he wanted to make sure that him and his family would be safe from the Empire.
Correct.
And all that. And
yeah.
They had this whole kerfuffle back and forth about Luthen just wanting to know what all the details, but him also wanting to guarantee his safety, that, which I honestly found pretty funny, the whole back and forth between them just wanting two different answers out of each other, which was pretty funny.
Yeah, no, for sure it was. And then it was until it almost wasn't, because then we see Lonnie's fate,
Well, yeah, because Luthen just takes his life.
What a shot of just hole in his chest.
Him just like this. And the dog's kind of walking up to him and just walks away.
Yeah.
The dog doesn't realize that he's dead, but he's just sat there
oh my gosh. It was quite the shot. I mean, it was almost
the dog probably thought he was asleep. That's the thing.
There was something very Scorsese about it. I kind of harkened back to Goodfellas, when we're just seeing all the dead people, all the dead bodies or all the lives that were taken.
He must use a silencer because you didn't hear anything when he killed him.
No, 100%. Yeah, he must have. I mean, he obviously had to do it subtly because where the location.
I mean, he was in public during the day as well, during the middle of the day. So
yeah, but then we go. I mean, we move pretty quick. Well, one of the lines that I don't know if you talked about this yet. Luthen and Clea are speaking in the beginning of this, and there's one big thing.
I did not mention that. Yeah,
there's one line that I loved where she was like, "Let's make sure it's perfect," and Luthen says, "We used up all the perfect." That line did
blow me away as well. But then we jump from here. I mean, he's telling Clea everything about what this agent has just told him, and he says, "No, I will go and basically erase everything that's in the gallery of theirs."
Right.
She's like, "No, let me do it." He's like, she's like, "I'll do it faster." He's like, "No, let me do it." And man, I mean, we obviously see the fate of Luthen here when he goes to the gallery to basically deteriorate the board that they were using to listen in to every single thing that the Empire has been saying, essentially, and everyone out in the universe.
Yeah.
But then he's met by Dedra in the gallery, because this is when Dedra's grown suspicious of Luthen and wants to sell him, what was it, an old Imperial...
Oh, it was the Starpath unit. Yeah, the Starpath unit from the...
that's what it was.
Which was how this all started, which was a great way to reflect back on the early stuff. I thought that was awesome, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is everything coming to a head, and then Luthen using the knife on himself was like a shocking bold shot.
I really liked how at first they were talking about, like, she was asking, like, is everything here real? And he was talking about the forgeries and stuff, and she was like, what about this knife? He's like, well, who knows? No one really knows. And then he just stabs himself with a knife, and she's like, turn around, put your hands, above your hands. And she's like, and then, you just see him drop the knife.
That might have been,
dude, that was
the
crazy.
best usage of human blood that we've seen in Star Wars thus far. Like, what I mean? Like,
100%.
Show that just because you didn't have to see anything, like any puncture in Luthen himself. You just had to see it on the knife, and you're just like, oh my god.
And it just dripped off of the knife, off of his body and off the knife onto the floor.
It was a brilliant shot, and just, oh my gosh, and then
and it was just the way that he took the knife out so slowly from himself as well, and then just dropped it. It was.
I'm pretty sure too, because we're starting to get these flashbacks and starting to fill in the gaps of what's going on with Kleya and Luthen.
Between Luthen and Kleya, about how their relationship all started, and essentially how he grew to be a father figure to her, essentially. Which, by the way, these flashbacks I loved. They were all so good. I really did enjoy, and I loved the POV shot that we got of Kleya seeing everything that Luthen was doing, and I believe that's when we got to see the substance abuse, if I'm not mistaken, or was that later?
Oh, that was.
Was that when he was on the?
When we started to see him, he's got this like flask of alcohol, and this is like how he.
That's what That's kind of where he goes.
I
mean, alcohol is a drug, so I mean, I guess that's when his substance abuse started.
Right. I mean, just as in the sense of, like, he kind of abuses us. It looks like, anyway, to kind of silence. I
also loved how he just he found Kleya and he protected her at all costs and made sure that no one found out that she was there, and I found that awesome. It was great. And then just the relationship that was formed between them two. Obviously, as we could see, started off pretty rocky, obviously, to start with. But then just as we see now, it's progressed into a father-daughter relationship for sure. And it's just amazing. Love to see it.
Yeah, no, it's really, oh gosh, it makes it so much.
I think the flashback that really got me was the one with when they were at that like restaurant and they were blowing up those transports.
Yeah, on what appeared to be Naboo.
Yes, it did appear to be Naboo. Yeah,
I mean that was cool. I mean, I was like, it has to be Naboo. If it's not, I mean, I don't know.
And she's like, he's like, do you want to press the button? She's like, sure.
Yeah.
He's like, nope, you're not gonna press it. And then he just presses it. He's like, look at me.
Yeah.
And he presses the button, and he's like, now you can look. And she looks, and it's just like fucking like 3 or 4 just transports just blown up.
You're realizing,
like, yep, now it's time for us to go.
Well, that little moment of like, now you can look. It's like you're realizing why Kleya is so good at what she does. It's like. This whole time because he trained her, to be that way.
Very well.
Be very smart.
And oh my god! The other flashback that really got me was one where they were on. I can't remember where they were, and they were like selling a bunch of stuff for credits. And the negotiation that she did was so good for the first thing that they're trying to sell, where she was like, "Oh, we got offered 15 by so and so down there."
Yeah.
And then they ended up selling like at 7. And then what really got me was when she saw all those people get shot. He's like, let's go. You shouldn't see this. She's like, no, I'm going to stay here. She sees them all get shot and then ends up running right back to Luthen. I thought that was intense right there too. That got me. That flashback really got me too right there.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like this is just filling in so much that it really
it almost too is like it shows that like Luthen was always right when it comes to what he was telling Kleya, and it took her seeing this stuff and actually experiencing 100%. This stuff to realize that that he is always right when it comes to this kind of stuff, because he's been in the game for a very long time.
Well, it really is, and everything, all the events that are happening in this episode, even up until this point, are like, it's the beginning of the end, man, and it feels that way. This is why it was so brilliant for them to do these 3 episode arcs, because this beginning of this, it feels like the start of the end, and really like it, it right when Luthen says we used up all the perfect, like I was going back to, what I mean, and it just feels that way. It's like, oh, this is really it. And so Kleya has to go out on her mission, You know, she knows what she has to do. She has to make sure Luthen's dead and nothing.
Dead, so that he's not interrogated and that nothing gets out about Yavin or any of that stuff.
Yeah, and it's so tragic, man. I mean, Elizabeth Dulao just does an amazing job. I mean, I like that they were managed to include a little bit of levity there too, where she, grabbed that random alien and started bringing it up the elevator. Like I thought that was funny. It's like, that.
I mean, really the whole scene of like everything that she just literally had everything planned out and she just executed it all to perfection. There was funny moments, there was intense moments, there was cool moments, and it just goes to show that she was trained by the best, which was Luthen. But the fact that she has to use all these strategies that Luthen taught her to go and kill Luthen is just like, dude,
it really does all kind of play into what happens later. But I just love I was so satisfied with the way that this character ended up, the fate of this character by the end of the show. I was very satisfied with, man. I mean, what a big presence again Elizabeth Dulao is in the show, and just how emotional this scene was.
I mean, I think this definitely was her episode for sure. Like it really got to show us why she became the person that she is now, how she became the person she is now, and how she was able to put all those skill sets to use.
Well, I mean,
in one episode.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Cassian's not in this episode. Our main character is not in this episode, and I didn't miss him. And that's not.
That's what I mean. That's the thing is our main character in this episode is Clea.
It's the first one. He's not in. Yeah.
I love that our main character for this one episode is Clea, because if anything, I've wanted to see more from her.
Yeah.
And see a backstory of where she came from, how she grew up, who how her relationship with Luthen ended up evolving and all that stuff. So I absolutely and I didn't honestly miss anyone. I didn't miss Andor. I didn't miss any of them, because you're so invested in what's happening in this episode that you forget about Andor.
It's not an insult to Cassian as a character. It's just how great this story is for some of our side characters, and it's more of a compliment to that, if anything. And it's so perfect, man. It's just so well done. It's one of the I'm blown away every moment by this show, and I just don't have words for it sometimes. Like, I sit there and I go, how did they get it so right? And then they really did here.
Honestly, I think it all just comes down, around to Tony Gilroy. I think he just understands like this whole Rogue One Andor universe storytelling.
It's him, and
he just understands it. He just he just understands it the best, I think.
Well, I think what it really shows too is his sensibility for mapping out. Because we're all the way out over to 1 BBY now. So now we
are in 1 BBY,
which just shows you like how well he mapped this out and how well he planned it before going ahead and shooting it. It needed to all be kind of on a dry erase board somewhere at the very least, where he made a chart and just mapped it out somewhere, I think. And
I mean, that's definitely where it started for sure.
Yeah, and it works out that way, man. I just love people who plan this way and to make it all work, and it's one of those. This is one of those episodes where I'm just blown away by how well it fits, and also like how well it did start off these last three, and how important it was, and just I can't speak to it enough, but it's just unbelievably great, and just I mean, for sure. I mean, we at this point, man, where it's no longer a sci-fi fantasy series. I mean, it is, but it's a TV drama. It's really hard-hitting TV drama, and this you can't take that away at this point, because we've really we've gone from Gorman to the Mon Mothma to this to, you know what I mean? Like, we're really in this drama, and I think
now we're in Coruscant actually now, so
I think that just really works. But yeah, man, I can't applause to this episode and all the work. Gosh, it's weird because I want to have like these. I know he's not actually dead in real life, but Alexander Skarsgård, I want to like give final words for him, because it feels so visceral and real when he passes, and it's just it's that hard hitting,
Almost, what's crazy is I almost have a suspicion that Luthen knew Dedra was gonna go to the gallery. That's why he didn't want Clea to go.
Yeah.
He wanted him to be the one to go, because he just in a way knew that Dedra was gonna show up.
Yeah,
and he didn't want Clea to be the one to either take her own life or have her be the one interrogated. And I feel like also it's because he is way older than her. She has more to live for. So it's almost like, you're my daughter, I'm going to take my life for you so that you can live more. It's just such a sweet sentiment too from Luthen.
Yeah.
I just loved this episode so much. It was so
me
good.
Too. It was. It's top tier, man. It's top tier
for sure.
Well, you gotta talk about now. We gotta go back. We gotta go into.
She goes to that house that they always hide in.
Yeah, she goes back.
Oh my gosh, that scene! Ooh, that scene was crazy.
She's got to get this old clunky gear to try to contact the rebellion, right? And she's using
over at Yavin,
different codes that she thinks will work, and it's really cool to see it work that way.
And here's the thing: is that it does eventually work for one specific person, Mr. Cassian Andor.
Yes, in the next episode. But I do want to say, like, I loved how World War II that all kind of felt too.
It really was.
It was so crazy cool. Just to throw that out there. But yeah, no, man. And anyway, so yeah, but we do got to talk about this next one because yes, it does work for Cassian Andor, who's playing a game of something with K2SO. It must be Sabak, right, or something. I don't remember exactly what they're playing.
Him K2SO and the other guy. I forget his name.
Melshi.
Yep, that's the one. Yeah.
Which, by the way, can I just say really quick? Let's get out of the way because he is such a small role. But I do want to say this guy who plays Melshi is so likable. It was so little to do.
Duncan Powell, yeah, he is. But that's the thing.
Awesome.
He does so much more in Rogue One, which I love.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
it's like his character is built up for what he does in Rogue One.
Yeah, I just love how likable he is with very little time. Like he's immediately.
And here's the
likable.
thing too is like the chemistry between Alan Tudyk as K2SO, Cassian Andor, and him. Like their chemistry is just so funny in that one scene where they're playing that game. I love it.
Well, I want to talk about more or less what they were doing with the scene. Yes, it is great chemistry, and it's so funny to watch them pick on this droid. But I also want to talk about. I was
laughing that entire time. It was too funny.
I want to talk about the genius of what they did here, which is this. It's the Jaws effect, man. It's when Spielberg and Dreyfus and Roy Scheider and my gosh, I'm blanking on his name. The one, oh my gosh, Quince, whatever.
Quince, whatever.
I can't think of the actor. I feel bad about that right now because he's the one that got nominated for the movie.
Oh, Quint, you mean Robert Shaw?
Robert Shaw, thank you. So it's Robert Shaw, Richard Dreyfuss, Roy Scheider are all sitting in the boat, right? And they're just having this laugh before the shit hits the fan.
That one scene where I love that scene.
That's what this is doing right here. This is the Jaws effect, man. Yeah. And I love it. I love what they're...
You see? You know what? I like that take. The Jaws effect. I love it.
It is. It's the Jaws effect. They're using this last moment of levity to get us to, before the shit really hits the fan. Because this is our last moment before Rogue One really kind of starts. Our last... at least calm moment anyway before Rogue One really starts, and
calm before the storm.
Exactly, and it's the Jaws effect, man. I think that Gilroy pulled right from that movie with this, and I was like just so blown away because obviously
I wouldn't be surprised if he was inspired by Spielberg in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. I mean, I see a lot of moments where he could be in this show, but this one especially was like, this is the Jaws effect. That's exactly what he's doing. And it
almost,
really
what's crazy is I really want to play that game now. I don't know what game it is, but I want to play it.
Excuse me. Oh yeah. I don't know if I feel like it had to be some form of Sabak, but excuse me. Anyway, but it's a great scene. It's a great scene of levity, and it's a great scene with K2SO and getting that showing like the relationship that was built. It was
a version of Sabak,
yeah. So it's over a year time, and we're seeing like how Cassian and Melshi and K2 have all kind of connected, which is great as well. But then things are coming through. I mean, Clea's making contact, and then they have to go. And I love this. I love how they don't just kind of go. Or I mean, Andor's got the impulse to go, but the other two are trying to talk about this beforehand. You know what I mean? And you're like, it's a real friendship they got here, going on, like with all these conversations.
What's funny too is I love the violations that K2SO names, or the number. He's like, I can name. I heard 17 violations that we're breaking. It's hilarious. Honestly, like Cassian Andor and K2SO,
it's great.
It's great because like Cassian Andor has a seriousness to him, and K2SO has the comedic effect to him. It's almost like it reminds me of Joel and Ellie.
A little bit. I can see that 100%. Yeah, for sure.
The seriousness and the comedic. It's like there's just so many different. That's what I love about the TV and movies is that you just draw inspirations from like so many different things that like are similar but different in the same way. It's great.
Yeah. I mean, great material elevates other great material. Because of that for sure. And I just love this. But back at sort of in the Imperial side of things before we kind of get to this, and we're seeing.
Isn't Didra under arrest, right?
Yeah. Well, we're seeing Krennic
Krennic comes in.
Yeah, we're starting to see that develop a little bit too in this. And I mean, again, we were talking about like great performances from Ben Mendelsohn. Not quite as great as the performance you just put on trying to suck your beer out of the can, but it's still pretty good and just like very intimidating at the same time, and just like
because that's when he also mentions that like Lonnie obviously logged into her computer to get all the details about the Death Star and stuff.
Yeah.
Although they don't know exactly what it is that Lonnie, grabbed from her computer.
Right. Yeah.
Which is where oh my god, and the performance from Krennic too, they're like just absolutely destroying the crap out of Deidre.
Mendelssohn's, yeah.
Dude.
But he also at the same time.
Hats off to him too. He's an incredible actor, man.
He really is. He really is. It's really one of those things too, though. At the same time, where you're kind of like Deidre is like, oh my gosh, she's insignificant to the grand scheme with the Empire here. You know what I mean? Like once they got what they need from her, see ya. That's all they really need. And that's what it was really about, was just showing, I think, the insignificance of Deidre, even though to us as audience members,
it's funny too because Krennic thinks that he's super important, but then you find out in Rogue One that he's also just indispensable. Like once he's done with whatever it is he's doing, he's gone. It's like they don't need him. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy how we kind of climb the ladder in that way, right? Like it's like it's a
climb the ladder to just go down the ladder again, like
Krennic to Vader to Tarkin. I mean, because Tarkin really is a little above Vader in some ways, when we see him in New Hope, and
Tarkin ended up just eventually obviously taking over the whole Death Star thing once Krennic was left on that planet to just die with the rest of everyone.
I mean, we'll kind of talk about this a little later in the finale part of it, but like you kind of see like how Krennic and Patagraz are on like equal playing field, together. Like they
we will get to that final. We will get to that scene eventually.
For sure. I mean, Krennic gets the upper hand in a way, but for sure. But anyway, so we're
over with Clea, right? In the
yes. So let's get back to that, because this is
she's grabbing something else. What was it that she was grabbing something else from somewhere, because she destroyed the wall and grabbed something. I'm trying to remember what it was.
I don't know. Maybe it's I don't know. I remember before she went to the hospital, she had to grab the explosives and all that. But
she like punched a hole in the wall and grabbed something else. I can't remember what it was, because I remember the floor was the communication device. I can't remember what she grabbed from the wall.
Damn it! I don't know. Yeah, sorry,
blanking. We know she grabbed something. Yeah.
Yeah, but either way.
But then, so we have Cassian and them heading over.
Mm-hmm. And this stuff is all great. I mean, it's really.
This scene, and what's it called? The new guy in charge, the one that took over for Lonnie. I forget his name.
Right.
The guy who was like kind of his partner, quote unquote. I forgot who. What his name was.
Yeah, we're finally getting some payoff to all that, exactly, and so he's coming through.
He takes over, and they find out exactly where the communication is coming from.
Right.
Which they actually find from the gallery of Luthen and Clea, which is cool.
Exactly.
I love the joke she popped as well. It was like, oh wow, they've been listening into the Empire this entire time.
Yeah. Oh, for
so
sure.
That's pretty funny.
And
so this is what happens from here on is actually It's insane. I love it so much.
Yeah, I love the chemistry when they finally get there. I mean, I love the chemistry with
Cassian and Clea.
I loved watching this scene because, well, first of all, I love of course it would be you, when he walks in the door, and it's like, and she's like, all right, and she has to, even though this wouldn't be her first choice, this is what she has to rely on, and she has to put her faith in him. But then we get.
I mean, if it was anyone that could decode the cipher, it would be Cassian.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
And again, when you start to think about the fate of Clea's character, it's like, thank God it was Cassian, because he had the heart to try to convince her to get out of there, and he does. You know what I mean?
Facts.
Yeah. So
I don't feel like anyone else would have been able to do it. Yeah.
Exactly. And so it actually, oh my gosh, it means so much to the character Clea and moving forward. I think the fact that he got her out. And I loved seeing that he was just, at the end of the day, on a very human level, just concerned for Clea. You know what I mean?
I find it funny too that he just tells K2SO to stay in the ship, which is obviously, we see in Rogue One every single time without fail. Cassian's like, just stay with the ship.
And he never does, and he never should.
He never does. He never listens. I mean, he gets bored, waiting at the ship.
You're right. I should just stay on the ship. I love that line in Rogue One.
I love it. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
But then you have the ISB agents start going up, and you got like the 2 or 3 people outside waiting next to the elevators,
and it starts to get super intense, man. I mean, just like, because we're really at our I guess kind of at our wits' end in a way, because we're starting to figure out, like, okay, they don't really stand a chance until K2, like we were kind of saying. Like, I mean, we don't really
exactly. I mean, so I mean, they take out like maybe like 2 or 3 agents, and then they throw a concussive grenade, and
stuns them. Yeah,
kind of puts down Clea.
Let's remember,
injures Clea.
Let's remember. So this actually stops in the middle of the agents coming, and then it starts back up in the last episode. So our finale actually starts in the middle of this moment. Like, that's kind of crazy to think about, but that's how seamlessly the last two play together. Because it starts right in the middle of this, and then they throw that, I guess what you can call somewhat of a concussive grenade.
Their version of a concussion grenade.
It takes them out, and it not takes.
Takes out Clea and actually injures.
Takes Clea out mostly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And but K2's doing his thing.
It barely does anything to I always forget his name. Melshi. It barely does anything to him. It kind of concusses Cassian a little more than Melshi, but then it completely takes out Clea. Yeah. And then it's just so funny just to see K2SO just come through.
Well, how great was the shot, man? I mean, of him holding the dude and just hostage, and because of all the smoke, they can't see what's coming, and then they just start shooting the dude, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. We haven't seen that.
No, it's also just funny just seeing how his punch just sends people flying.
Yeah, dude,
hilarious.
It's great, and it was like, oh my gosh, and then you start to realize like how it all lines up. Like, if Cassian doesn't take K2SO, he doesn't get out of this moment, and just it's all playing together.
You think that Cassian would have learned his lesson in telling K2SO to stay on the ship?
Yeah,
don't ever say that ever. Don't ever tell him to wait at the ship. Except there's only one scene in Rogue One.
Although I think Jin is the one that tells him to Rogue One.
No, I think Cassian did tell him. Okay. No,
I think Cassian approved it, but I think Jin told him, because Jin was like. I'm afraid
the one important scene where he definitely should have stayed with the ship was when they went to go see Saw Gerrera, and the whole planet the city temple thing was getting destroyed, and then K2SO was able to go and pick them up. That was the only time he definitely stayed with the ship. But there was that one other time where he told, where Cassian told K2SO to stay with the ship, and they got surrounded by stormtroopers, and then K2SO just comes in and just wipes them all out. I think Cassian told K2SO to stay with the ship that time, though. So
correct.
There was only one time I think that Jin said stay with the ship, but it actually mattered.
Yeah, no, for sure. Anyway, but going back though, you're right. But going back to it, I
mean, they escape and they get Clea to Yavin.
Well, I love the line too of K2SO. Cassian, I have cleared a path. Amazing. And then even going back to the,
I love his probability jokes and his I just love the jokes that K2SO cracks, man. They're just a great, just comedic distraction away from the fuckery that's happening in real life.
Yeah, I'll say this too, to give another show some credit here, because another Star Wars show some credit, because when they're on their way back to the base and those two X-wings kind of fly side by on the sides of them and pull them over, that kind of came from Mandalorian. Mandalorian was the first thing we really saw that in.
When he was in his Razor, what was it, his ship, and then there was the two X-wings that were next to him.
Without Mandalorian, I don't think we would have had that visual. So I got to credit Mandalorian for that for sure. To inspire that sort of thing, which was really cool. But I also
when I saw the X-wings too, I was like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's so cool. But I also love that, like, they're K2SO's alibi is like, I'm prepared to tell him that you kidnapped me.
And I love the scene where he just like looks over at the X-wing and just waves.
Yeah,
it's so funny.
Amazing. And then they pull down and they land, and like
there's a bunch of guns just pointed at them.
Who's on the ship? And K2 just comes out, hello. it's incredible. I love the way that K2SO is used.
He's like, oh, it's just us. she needs a doctor right now.
Yeah, no, get the medic essentially. And then I feel like we're kind of skimming over though too. I mean, some of the stuff that's going on in the Rebellion base a little bit, because like we have Mom Mothma now, shorter hair, and she's looking a little more.
Oh yeah, she's looking more like a Rogue One,
right? Exactly, like Rogue One.
Yeah, exactly.
And she's starting to become the Mom Mothma we all know a little bit more, and
love.
And yeah, exactly, no one love, and especially now after the show. But yeah, so she definitely is becoming that now, and it's really great, and I love how all the visuals very much on Yavin line up with the stuff that's going on in Rogue One as well.
I was gonna say another thing that I loved so much too was the fact that a lot of the rebel troops are wearing the old time uniforms from A New Hope. Like, I love that so much.
I love that we're learning about Saw Gerrera going to Jeddah, and the sort of relationship that him and Mon have together. I think that stuff is really important and plays so well. I just love that the fact that Jeddah has become significant, because we're learning that Palpatine needs the Kyber off of Jeddah to finish the Death Star. It's the most important piece. Really, it's really not operational without it. So I love that.
Which they obviously we know he eventually gets, because the Death Star finishes. So
yeah, I love how much that just plays into it. And so that's really great, lining it up. Anyway, I just wanted to make sure we didn't just skim over that, but.
That's fair,
yeah. And also on the Imperial side, might as well touch on this really quick, because we have the moments of Krennic and Pendergrass, having their little tiff, which is really
the
great.
tiff about like how basically Pendergrass needs to turn himself in, essentially.
Yep. And then he kind of realizes,
and he's like, "Can I have a moment to myself, please?"
Well, then we realize he's at the end of the line, because we know what happens from here. He probably sees Vader is what ends up happening. Like, those stormtroopers take him to Vader, and Vader chokes him out, and he knows what happens to people in his position.
And so that's why he's just like, "Can I just have the moment to myself?" And then he just shoots himself.
Oh my god!
Oh, and I love. What I find funny too. I find funny is that he just he tells the stormtroopers, "Don't go in." They hear the gunshot, and he's just like.
That's what was so brilliant about it, is we heard it. We didn't see it. We heard it. And it was just like my body just locked up when I heard that. I was like, oh my gosh, this is high level stuff. Very, very, very heavy, very layered, very crazy. Very
nice.
And for sure. Really wild scene, and just knowing that fate of that character now.
What's crazy? You know what we've talked about off screen that we forgot to mention in here is the reactions of both Dedra and Cyril's mom when he dies.
Oh my gosh, we did forget to talk about that. Oh, I'm so sorry, audience.
Look, and you're welcome for reminding me.
Yes, audience, I'm so sorry. We do need to talk about the impact and the ultimate payoff of Cyril and his mom. Which was that very dramatic scene.
When she finds out in the news, which is awful.
It was funny. I knew I was missing something when we were getting to the end of that. I was trying to think in my head.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. Yes, that single tear that comes out of her eye.
Deidre's reaction too is trying to hold it together, but she just ultimately can't really hold it together, because ultimately it was the love of her life.
We didn't touch on that. You're right.
No matter how many kerfuffles they got in with each other, they ultimately loved each other, and so it's just to see her actually feel that way means that she is human and that she's she loves, and it's just. Yeah. But I think definitely the mom's reaction is definitely the more impactful one, because the single tear that just drops from her eye is just
so good. So good. Yeah.
All right, now back to this. All right.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, no, for sure. Thank you. No, those are great moments. I'm glad we touched on those for sure. Fantastic and so dramatic.
And I knew, it's crazy. I knew we were missing something too, and then it just came into my head just now for some reason.
Yeah. And I knew it. So yeah, back to this though. I mean, we're getting Clea back, and then Andor, and I love, nobody. He's trying to tell them all about the Death Star, and nobody believes him, and they're like, well, Luthen was, kind of being, he was at the end of the line with the ISB, so they easily could have been duped. I mean, because he didn't have the power and the upper hand. And I'll tell you what, man, it's frustrating, but you really get it. At this point.
I mean, that whole scene really got me. Like the Andor telling Bail and Mon Mothma and all the other of them, like this whole thing, and just the whole interactions between all of them was just so intense, and I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the first time that you're seeing Bail like be like a little bit more pushback on stuff like this, but at the same time, you're like, you really get it. It makes a lot of sense when you line it all up. Everything we know of this character up until this point, actually, especially as a Star Wars fan of everything, it's just it makes so much sense. But I really love it, man, and it lines up to a great moment toward the end. And so Cassian gets, it's like, okay, well, we'll think about it. We'll reconvene. And then we.
Oh, and they also ground him, by the way.
Yeah, they ground him essentially. Yeah, they tell him he can't fly, so they ground him. And
he's also limited to like his quarters but then they also allow him to go to the medical center so that he can visit Clea. And
I love that with Mon Mothma, like permission granted.
Approved. Permission granted.
Yeah,
straight away.
She's just.
Cassian's like, can I go to the medical center?
Yeah, she's the one that feels bad. She's like, okay, let's grant him something. She's
something just, at least, please. I mean,
and oh my God, the last moment with Cassian and Vel is something that I love in this show, because like it's one of those things that finales do so well, because they have this toast to all the lives lost over time, and it's something that the finales do so well.
And I love that, like,
great finales Cassian, do this where they harken back to everything.
Cassian toasted to Luthen, and then Vel toasted to
everyone,
to Cinta, and then then they all toasted to everyone. But I love how Cassian did it for Luthen first, and then Vel did it for Cinta, and then they both did it for everyone at the end. It's like,
exactly. Yeah, it was such a great way to like make us think over the moments that we've spent, and just like. It brings like a bittersweetness to your heart a little bit, because it's like we've had such a great ride and journey, but at the same time, it's like a lot of lives lost along the way, and just it's sad. And I'm sad. It's also that thing of like we're sad it's coming to an end. You know what I mean? Like
And then I believe at the same time they're having some kind of communication come from was it Kefler?
Oh, Kafrene is the planet. Kafrene is the planet.
I mean, they're having the communications come through that, and how this unknown person will only meet Cassian.
Yes, that's correct. And we know who that is from Rogue One, but that's in the words of Maz Kanata, it's a story for another time. But we get.
But then we also have, was it Vel catches Clea going kind of like towards where Cassian lives, and then kind of turns her around.
Yeah.
And has that whole conversation with her, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, well, Mon Mothma, I love the line of like, "I need you to help me believe him."
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That was great, and I love that they confront Bail at the end of the day, and I just thought all that really worked. And one of the funnier parts is when Melshi and K2SO come back to Cassian's place, and K2SO's like, something, I forgot what he said, like, oh, we were done, or something like that, and Melshi's like, no, they threw us out, they were tired of listening to him. I thought that was fantastic.
That was fantastic.
But even beyond that, like the moment with Clea, like you really feel for her, because she's trying to get out of there and just like go see whoever, I don't know, get out of there, essentially. And then Vel brings her back, and then they have this like just great exchange, and it's just like, and Clea's, it's all kind of ties into the ending where Clea realizes like, oh, there's hope here. You know what I mean? There is a new hope, essentially.
Hey.
So I just love all that, man. It ties in really nicely, and our final moments of the show are literally
it was basically them telling that there's someone on was it Kafir?
It is Kafreen. Yeah, Kafreen. Yeah.
Kafreen, that like this person only wants to talk to you, and so they send them with K2SO2 and the walking moments to the ship. I love.
Stop a second. We're forgetting. I think the finale would not be the finale without the moment between Bail and Cassian. We need this because that was the part where that was one of the best conversations ever.
Oh yeah, when Bail comes to his living quarters. And,
it just gives so much closure because it's like it's that thing of like, there are like multiple people in this rebellion all fighting for the same goal. You know what I mean? They don't see eye to eye, but at the end of the day, they all want the same thing. You know what I mean? And it's that moment of Cassian telling them, like, you and Luthen would have gotten along a lot better than you think you would have. And I just love that. And then you're right. Then we get the montage. He's walking to the ship, and it's amazing because it's this amazing walk where it's like we know he's walking to the end of his life, right? Right before that, too, we got to talk about, Vel, the fact that Vel said, don't wait too long. Just, speak to Bix, which is very heartbreaking because we know he's not going to, especially when we get to the walk to the ship, and we know it's the final walk to the ship. And it's
I love how he has the full circle moment with the Force healer woman too, because he sees her when he's walking to the ship as well.
He's walking to really cool. Rogue One, to the beginning of Rogue One. That's what he's going to.
And I love how they just made it like a whole slow motion thing too, where like everything was just in slow motion while he was walking towards the ship. I thought that was really cool.
And I love that. The first thing we see is the table. We're kind of back to the beginning of, people eating together at a table and getting along a little bit. We're back to the beginning.
We also get to see his Rogue One outfit too. Now here,
we do. You're right. There is that. That is also something that hits you in the moment, but also just seeing Mon Mothma and Vel eating together and knowing that they're ultimately survivors. They're survivors. It doesn't need to say that to you. It doesn't explicitly need to tell you that like Vel survived. We know Mon Mothma survived, but like it doesn't need to explicitly explain that Vel survives. We just know, okay, they're showing us this because she's a survivor. And then on to Clea. Clea's a survivor, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's so nice to see that some people made it out of this. You know what I mean?
And Melshi running with those other people too.
Yeah,
he's a survivor. Yeah, with all these other people that he's running with.
Exactly.
That Cassian like, he's a Force healer woman.
Yeah.
I love that eye contact that happens between Cass and the facial expression that she does.
He gives a little head nod. Yeah, that's what I mean by he's finally accepting. Okay, it's real. I don't like it, but the Force is there. It's like I'll accept it, and I'll give you that. That's the respect I'll give. And he does. He gives this head nod, and then he's, and there's this thing to it where you kind of get into the, I'm blanking here. Deidre. Sorry, Deidre's in prison. I love that. She's on, maybe not Narkina 5, but one of the Narkinas and Cassian. Like where Cassian was. She's on one of those. For sure. And I love seeing Deidre there in prison, and that was great closure.
Honestly, I was gonna say it's pretty funny to see her at the prison that Andor that Cassian was at with Andy Serkis's character.
Yeah, fantastic closure, and then
just her reaction of her being there was funny as well.
Yeah, for sure. Krennic and the Death Star, it's like that was a great shot. It was great to have that in there, and just oh my gosh, so well done. And it's like finally the follow-up to that post-credit scene we got in season 1. Here's the Death Star again.
Exactly.
Yeah, so really, really cool to see. So I really enjoyed that. But it's watching him walk to that ship and the final scene, there's a little bit of something else going on for me where it is him walking to the beginning of Rogue One, but I also want to mention it's like we're kind of like seeing it. It's like we're presenting to you one of the most important people in the galaxy, Cassian Andor. Right. And I love that feeling that you get too as well watching him walk.
Without Cassian, you wouldn't have gotten the plans to destroy the Death Star.
And I love how the show just lets us sit in that for a second. It's like it's just here. Process everything now, and here you go. And then the final shot.
I know this doesn't have to do with Andor, but K2SO's death in Rogue One is one of the saddest things.
Oh, for sure.
I cried when I saw that. I was like, oh my god.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you realize too once he gets into the ship too that him and K2 are going to be going over to this is the beginning of the end of our lives, you know. It's sad. There's a tragic thing about it, but also again, you know, like I said, we present to you the most important person in the galaxy, or one of the most important people in the galaxy, Cassian Andor. So I just love that feeling. And then you get the final shot, which is a jaw drop.
It is a jaw drop for sure.
So yeah, Bix had his baby. Or at least that's what's implied.
Yeah, well, first,
you know.
Yeah, you see, you know, was it what was the droid's name again? I forget his name.
B. We get to see B, which I love that. I love that we see B is happy.
You get to see B. Yeah, you get to see B happy, and then you know you see all the other people that are there.
Yeah,
and then you see someone walking through the fields.
Yeah.
With a baby, and then boom, the camera angle changes, and you see that it's Biggs with a baby,
and you just sit there and go,
"My jaw hit the floor."
He had a child, son of a bitch. Like you kind of sit there and are like, it makes the whole sacrifice that much more tragic. But there's a good way to look at it too, where his legacy will live. You know, in a way, the Andor legacy lives.
Well, that's the other thing too. Is does it actually live? We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you like to think so, I guess, you know? I mean, I guess...
I like to think of the brighter side, but the reality is, like, we don't actually know if it actually lived on or not.
Well, story for another time, you know?
Thanks. I'll write it.
But it's also, you know, and this can kind of bring us into what the legacy of this could be, because, you know, I think about the fact that, like, you know, this could be, you know, Tony Gilroy saying, you want more stories... You want another season of Andor? I got a way to do it. Just won't be casting Andor. We got another Andor we can follow, maybe down the line in the future. So it might be his way of doing that a little bit, you know. Maybe he wants to close the book for now, you know. But at the end of the day, maybe he doesn't want to leave it completely closed and come back to it someday, you know. And I can understand that, you know. And yeah, I think that's cool too. That there's a way to go back into it, you know, if we really wanted to, or if he really has a story to tell. It's that thing of, and this is part of the reason the show works. I look at the Neil Druckmann philosophy with Last of Us, or everything he does at Naughty Dog Studios with the games, whether it be Last of Us, Uncharted, or whatever, is he says he looks at every game he makes as the last one he'll ever make, you know, and that's, in other words, meaning, we're not going to open a book back up if we don't have a story to tell. You know what I mean? And that is, like, I think the Tony Gilroy philosophy here, which is like, I want to leave it open in case I do have a story to tell. You know what I mean? Someday. And I love that. I think that, speaking of the legacy of Andor, that is something that I want to see Lucasfilm do moving forward, is adopt that philosophy a little bit. Let's treat every project we do like it's our last one, you know? Because that way we don't feel like there's little to be desired, or, you know, more to be had,
to be wanted.
Exactly. And we're not left feeling with that feeling anymore. But also just the fact that we're getting like Tony Gilroy gave us with Andor season 1 and 2, it's a full meal every time. And I love to have that full meal, and I hope that that's the legacy of Andor. But I do think, as I said, it brings a lot more respect to this franchise. I do think it is going to be a big player during award season, which will bring, I think, a lot of big talents, very respectable talent to the franchise that they maybe couldn't have gotten. Yeah, maybe they couldn't have gotten that talent a month ago, but now they will, because of how well this show did and how great it is, and how just premium it feels. It has this very premium feel, this show. It feels like it could be watching on an HBO, like we've talked about the visuals and using location, and I hope that's part of what they adopt as well, is starting to use location more in future projects and stop relying on this volume stage. It's just not there yet. Maybe one day, but right now it's just not there.
I think,
you know?
And I think that's the other reason that I've come to terms with, is why I think they've left Atlanta, is because they want to shoot more location and less set. And, you know, in Atlanta, you don't have as beautiful locations as you do in Europe. So, yeah.
I hope so. I really do. I hope that that's part of it, is to try to start using more location, because it really makes a difference whether people know it or not. It does. And so you got to, I mean, and Tony Gilroy openly said, I think the last shot with Bix was volume, because I don't think they were able to use that location So they use it once in a while, but it's when you use it sparingly. It's like, when do you use it, when don't you? And most of the show is location, so and it makes a difference through the entire thing and how visually great it is. And I just hope that they get the right people, and like I said, treat every story like it's your last, man. Make sure it's correct before you get it out there, and in that way. I love that Neil Druckmann philosophy that he uses, that Naughty Dog with that, because it's just, that is why everything he puts out is top notch, and if it's not top notch to people, it at least always feels like a full meal, and you're getting something out of it and taking it away. I don't know, what are you hoping that legacy wise that this kind of leaves behind?
I mean, I definitely hope they pick it back up and expand on it. I feel like there's potential there.
Yeah.
I definitely would like to see the legacy of, if Bix and the kid's still alive. Obviously, we don't know. I would like to think that they are, and that they have, they're living amazing lives, and that, their kid ends up growing up to be as important as Cassian was to the universe. That'd be really cool to see something of that nature. So yeah, I definitely would like to see this legacy expanded on, and then it tackled by someone that is willing to do it justice, for sure.
For sure, man. And then another thing I'll touch on really quick for legacy, I did have these out. I just wanted to first of all thank the great people of Disney and Lucasfilm for putting season 1 and Rogue One both on Steelbook, which I did purchase upon their release. And
there actually was something that I wanted to show too, actually.
Yes. But before that, even, because these are fantastic, I'm not trying to plug for Disney here necessarily. All I want to say really quick, just a quick message to Disney, is something's missing here. So let's make sure we get a physical copy out for season 2. So I want a Steelbook to go with these. That's one thing I honestly hope that they do put out.
I was just going to show that this is I'm even more excited now to read this book because it's a prequel to the Andor show.
Yes.
Reign of the Empire.
Yes. That's and
it is a book, guys. If you have seen Andor season 1 and 2, make sure you pick up this book. It's still in Barnes and Noble. It is a prequel to Andor, and it's told from the perspectives of Bail Organa, Saw Gerrera, and Mon Mothma. And I've heard that it's amazing. And so far, what I've read from this book, it is really good. So I would recommend it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, man. So yeah, this is we're going like 2 hours 45 minutes here. We knew this was gonna be longer, but it was worth it just to talk about every aspect of the show that we could. And I'm really hoping that the rest of you all if you haven't seen it yet, what are you doing here 2 hours and 45 minutes later? Facts. But also check it out, because
facts.
If you haven't, for whatever reason, if you just like listen to us talk on Starlight Shadows, that's cool too. But just check the show out. I really hope you do, and let us know what you think of the show, because I'm sure you've seen it if you are this far into it, because we want to know your thoughts on it as well. And man, I just love that I'm seeing a lot of I gotta say one more thing on Legacy. I'm seeing a lot of the fan base come back together off of this. I really am, on all sides, and it's really nice to see. And this should I just would think that this would make somebody say at Lucasfilm, look at what this is doing. We have to make more of this type of thing. And I really hope that this is sort of a proving ground for that. Where it just makes more of these types of projects. And it doesn't all have to be as dark as Andor. I'm just saying it needs to feel as premium, I think, at the very least. And I just hope
there's one project. There's one thing that I definitely need that will be dark, which is Rise of the Sith with like Darth Plagueis and all them. I definitely need that.
That was one thing I was kind of mentioning off camera. Is like, if you're gonna hand Tony Gilroy something else, give us a show that actually is the telling of the Rise of the Sith, not Acolyte. Something else that is the actual Rise of the Sith. And maybe include Plagueis in there. Give it to Tony Gilroy. I think that could be very, very interesting to follow, and I would love to see it. And I think he might be the right guy to do something like that. Maybe a 4 or 5 season run of something like that would be very cool. Lots of telling there. A lot of gaps you got to fill. So I think he's the right guy to do it for sure. But yeah, man, no, for sure. And so Josh will be back. Just so everybody knows, we are just. He just needs to catch up on Andor, but he'll be back for another episode, I'm sure, and we'll have him back next time. But I do want to thank you, Jose, for filling in for him. Much appreciated for this one.
That's fun.
And yeah, I can't wait to get Josh's thoughts on the show. I'm just like dying for him to get through it because I know he's gonna love it. So just can't wait for him to see how well they did here. And yeah, man, appreciate everybody joining this conversation today. It's always a great time to be here on Starlight Shadows, and it's my favorite show we do on the channel, my favorite thing we do on the channel. So please make sure you go follow us on Spotify, support on Apple Podcasts if you have that, so that way we can continue to do it and continue to make them, and it really helps us out. And then go to Instagram, follow me at Dom Rambles. Always much appreciated. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining today. And that's been Mr. Jose Espinel. My name is Dom, and before we get out of here, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave some feedback in the comment section, share us with your friends, hit the bell for notifications. Always much appreciated, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, night, wherever you are, and we will talk to you guys later.
Peace.